All right, welcome to episode 49. We got bonus bench content this week as Blizzard unloaded the bag in regards to what's been going on. We are going to be basically covering everything that Blizzard announced today as of time of recording this in regards to what happened with 11.2, all the 11.17 and additional information and all that 11.17 stuff. We'll cover that on Monday. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the one button rotation, whatever nonsense has been going on this week. Squishy, how have you been today? I think that today has probably been a very busy day for you, if I had to wager a guess.
Yeah, it has been crazy. I've been up since like 9 a.m. It's now 10 p.m. my time, and I've basically been working for a good chunk of the time alongside my team. So it's been a long one, but it has been super exciting too. And I think there are some very, very interesting things to talk about.
Yeah. Growl, how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing great. I had a great day. Well, I don't know. I feel like this week's episode or last week's, however you want to look at it, was the first episode in a while that we weren't able to yap for like 2 hours. And I feel like that sent an alarm somebody in Blizzard HQ, and they're like, uh-oh, like the bench can't even yap for 2 hours about this week. Like, we got to do something. And so they all the Blizzard guys slide down their fire pole and get to their computer and just start rapid fire pushing out content. And it's like, we got an absolute just truckload of stuff to talk about now.
I mean, I don't want to say new, but we knew that 11.2 was going to have some content announcement soon.
Right.
Because I feel like, it's been kind of sparse in regards to like, where's the PTR, where's the dungeon testing, where's the raid testing. And today they had a WoW cast where a couple of people from the Blizzard team basically announced a bunch of different and unique stuff in regards to where the game is sitting. Squishy, where do you want to start? We got...
I think we just go straight to the dungeon rotation, man. This is like the number one thing of the day for a lot of people, I think. Growl? You want to start us off?
So what I heard was kind of right, that Tazavesh was coming back. I think it got leaked a while ago, and then we didn't know if it was real, but now it is. I love seeing another new dungeon. I like the idea of new dungeon season 2, new dungeon season 3. None of this like mega dungeon only M0 for a season. That's always kind of a letdown. And then Halls of Atonement's coming back. I'm really interested, comparing the dungeons now to the dungeons that were in BFA and Shadowlands. Like, I remember playing Shadowlands thinking that the dungeons were very modern, but now looking back, like, I wonder what they're gonna change about Halls of Atonement, right? Like, it's on one hand they've been changing a lot about every dungeon, but on the other hand it's like Halls of Atonement is like pretty wide open and there's lots of different stuff to pull. And I don't know, I feel like we're gonna need to see some visuals updated. I know those like thrust guys, you couldn't even see
dancers.
Their frontals.
I feel like that those mobs in so long.
Yeah, I feel like that would never get away. Another thing is that was one of the mandatory curse dispel dungeons, and that's something that we were free from this season with no mandatory dispels. I feel like that made healers feel pretty good, so I'm kind of wondering how that goes. I'm a little worried about Gambit as well. Gambit's another dungeon where a lot of, like, it's a great dungeon, don't get me wrong, right? There's a lot of open stuff in the first area, but Blizzard has really kind of gone into, like, changing the way stops work and casts and trying to change the way people play. And I hope they leave it mostly as is, but, hopefully they don't make some of those caster areas and ogres and stuff miserable.
I think that they have made an S tier. I think that like the decision as to what dungeons they're picking are like they picked like their S tier dungeons.
Yeah, okay. I guess I sound a little bit downer there. This is definitely a banger rotation for sure.
Yeah.
So the one dungeon to me that feels a little weird is Priory, just because I feel like it was a very hard dungeon and we just had it, and I kind of like, I would like to see them do some stuff to Priory. I would love to see them change like the right side and maybe change up some of the casters. I don't know. I would like to see them make some changes to it. Aesthetically, I love that dungeon, but I think that's a dungeon that a lot of people who have been pushing keys this season are like, oh no, this is a very tough one.
Yeah, I think that in general, I mean, you said this months ago. I it's just something that resonated super hard with me whenever we were talking about them bringing back old dungeons, and you were like, something I've learned is like, Blizzard can make dungeons good or bad whenever they bring them back. It almost has nothing to do with how good or bad the dungeon was in the past. It could be good or bad in the future. Like, we don't really know. And I kind of have this expectation of Halls of Atonement, Streets, and Gambit. It's really about how much effort Blizzard is willing to put in whenever they are reworking these dungeons and trying to modernize them. At the same time, I'm going to give Blizzard a lot of grace. I feel like their Mythic Plus team has done a really good job, at least this expansion. I know that season 1 started out hot. And it might be a really controversial take to say that I think they've done a good job, but you have to think about this in totality. They removed affixes. I think that's largely been a pretty good success for most people that are involved. More people now more than ever have been pushing keys higher because of the 3KIO Keystone Legend achievement. Resilient keys have been a smashing success. I think that the dungeons themselves, they're continuing to give us 8 brand new dungeons every single season, and that is a lot of work for them. And I think that while season 1 was a little bit too difficult, Blizzard came back with season 2 and they made the dungeons a lot easier. So I'm going to give them a lot of grace and a lot of room to try to make these dungeons as good as possible. I am so stoked for this dungeon pool.
This is the first dungeon pool for me where I'm just like, there's no big stinker in this one so far. Like, season 1 of War Within, we had Siege of Borealis. Everyone saw that. I remember Tettle's reaction of like, no, 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 no. Like, and then season 2 at Theater of Pain, people, reacted the same way. This one is just like, you know what? I'm on board. I'm excited.
Yeah, I just want to echo. Sorry, you can continue.
I was gonna say there are some problem areas, like you said, but like, I think they can resolve those.
I think the fish stick cast with like the stop change is probably the most notable thing for me. Also, the mobs that spam bolt on your tank in Halls of Atonement. Like, what's going to be going on with those mobs? There's a couple of things that I would be looking at, but those are things that you could probably fix if you just continue to give Blizzard feedback that they feel like they're terrible.
Yeah, I just want to repeat that. I feel like this. I feel like this expansion is the most fun I've had in Mythic Plus, like overall, system wise. I mean, obviously I can say like, playing with certain people or certain groups or is one thing, but season 1 started off a little rough for the pug scene. I feel like the difficulty they had for the everything was too high off the gate, and that left a little bit of a sour taste in people's mouth. But if you stuck around and got geared up, I feel like Mythic Plus felt fun, and I really like those dungeons. And then season 2 has been an absolute banger. I think that the class balance this season has been second to none. Like, it's been some of the best it's been. And
yes,
they're continuing to cook up different changes to Mythic Plus, and some feel different or whatever. But oh yeah, I'm very optimistic for the future of Mythic Plus for sure.
All right, let's leave this conversation and go to a different one. Mythic Plus leavers finally penalized with new deserter system coming in season 3. Squishy, tell us more about this. What's going on with all this?
Well, if you get grouped up with Jang B while he's in the streets and you are not a fan of your key, you can't just leave anymore. You're gonna have to go in there. You're gonna have to slash abandon and put up a vote like League of Legends. And we don't know if it's majority or everyone needs to, but the idea is a vote needs to pass in order for you to leave. And if you leave too often, you're gonna get marked, and everybody can see that you're a leaver in LFG.
I love the mark. I love the mark. So yeah, basically to repeat what he said, the way it works, right, is if you leave there's like a vote now, right?
Yes.
So if you're in, I don't think it's all keys, right? It's only if you join an LFG key, is that right? Or is it literally any key that you do? I guess
I think it's any key.
I suspect it's going to be any key, but I think it's aimed at people who are grouping up with people via LFG, I think is the read on this.
Right. And so like basically when you leave a key, then you're going to get marked. So it's not the same, my understanding is deserter, right? Which is if you leave like a normal matchmaking thing, you get a thing that doesn't let you queue again. It lets you do whatever you want, right? But you're marked as a leaver. And so when you go to try and join another group, right, it marks you as a leaver. And so people can see like, oh, this guy left keys. And I like it as a very, very opt-in system, right? Like if you're somebody who really, really hates levers and it bothers you, and I know there's lots of people out there, especially like the lower keys you get, the more you get those problems, you can literally be like, I'm never playing with a lever ever. Like, nope, I'm never going to do it. Not one single person is joining my key that's a lever, right? And if you just don't care, if you're just like, yeah, this isn't a big deal, like I'm just out on the streets, whatever, then you just do whatever you want to do, right? I think that I'm interested to see how it goes. Yeah, I don't know. I worry that, if you're somebody that does hate levers, it will make you feel a little bit better, but I don't know how much it's actually going to impact people leaving keys. Like I feel like when somebody wants to leave a key and they want to send like an FU or whatever, they're just going to do it most of the time. The one thing that I kind of wonder about though is like, so what happens if somebody just says, well, I'm not gonna play, right? So for example, let's say you go into
Oh,
a
yeah.
key and then your tank does a big pull and the pull goes wrong and you wipe and you waste bloodlust, and now your tank's like, he can't even do that pull again. He doesn't have those cooldowns, he doesn't have lust. He's like, I just want to quit, right? And the team's like, no, I don't want to quit. And the tank says, well, I'm AFK. And he just goes AFK, right? I wonder how it handles that situation. Like, is that a reportable offense now?
I mean, you can leave. Like, just because you leave one time isn't going to give you that mark on your record. I mean, I think that, and that's kind of important.
How
right?
does it work? No, I thought it was
we don't know.
Yeah,
The assumption is majority because it wouldn't make sense if it wasn't majority. So like 3 out of 5 people. But like we'll have to see once it goes live.
I mean, they kind of said that you can leave occasionally, but if you're leaving a lot of times, like an egregious amount, you're gonna get marked.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not like the first time you leave, you're immediately marked. Like that would be so punishing for everyone. Like,
Yeah.
whether you DC, you're like this key, and like there are other games like if you play like Marvel Rivals or League, you can't queue with like a full stack -1 because it's really easy to grief that final person, right? Like that's like if I'm sure this has happened to you at least once. You group up with like a group of 4 and you're the one, and they just like hyper troll you for whatever reason. Like, there has to be a way out for those situations, and if you leave one, you're fine.
I think
I would imagine.
So, well, hold on. So
Sorry.
hold on. So I actually wonder. So this is how I read this. So it says, hold on. If you leave keys too often in this first iteration, we're not going to penalize you on an account level. You'll just be marked as someone who leaves often. So in Group Finder, you'll see this player quits. So
often, I think is the key.
That
key
said,
phrase
if
here.
you're on good behavior in your okay, so reading this interview more, I guess I was under the impression that it was like it happened way more frequently, but you think it's like gonna genuinely just tag your account and you're gonna be like a leaver and there's nothing you can do.
I think there's gonna be like you're gonna list yourself in LFG and they're gonna see like a red flag next to your name, and they're gonna hover over it, and they'll be like marked user that leaves keys more than normal, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think too.
Okay, maybe I just didn't read into it fully. I kind of expected it to be a little bit more fluid, like basically the way. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Dota 2 system, but they have like a low priority queue, which basically like if you're toxic or you leave games, your account gets marked and you have to go play with all the other idiots who ruin games for like a certain amount of games, and then you get put back into the normal thing or whatever. And I thought it would be like very fast where you'd get marked and you'd have to get it back, but maybe it's like a longer term thing. I don't know. It's really tough if that's the situation because they can't be that transparent as to how your account gets marked, right? Like they can't, or how to get unmarked, right? Like imagine if randomly Tettles just wakes up and Thor Loser is marked as a lever, right? So what do you even do? Like you're just supposed to, I guess, blindly be like, okay, I'm never gonna leave keys and just hope this eventually goes away.
Well, no,
I'm gonna a little arbitrary.
I'm gonna gaslight and say it wasn't my fault.
They have specifically said the only way to get rid of it is by completing keys. Like not even in time, just completing keys. Like you have to complete it very much feels like a low priority queue of Dota.
Okay, so yeah.
You have to you just have to do the punishment. But like if I'm an LFG, if I'm hosting my key, why the fuck would I ever invite anyone with the red flag on them when there are a bazillion other people who are applying for your key? So the second that you get this flag applied, the only way to get rid of it is, in my opinion, one, you are essentially in a low priority queue where you're only going to queue with other low priority players and have the red flag because no one else is going to invite you. Or you are so overqualified for the dungeon, like you spam +2s to help people to get rid of the flag. Those are the only two things that I can see if this happens. It is socially so bad to get this mark.
I think
you know what's funny is if you say low priority, but I feel like it's even worse than that because imagine if Tettles gets Tettles gets marked as a lever, right? So he goes into Group Finder, no one wants to play with Tettles. So then Tettles makes his own group, right? Because he's like, I gotta complete some fucking keys. And now here comes Toxic Squishy the tank, right? Who's also marked as a lever. Tettles, if there's anybody that doesn't want to play with a lever, it's Tettles, right? Because he needs to complete these damn keys. because he needs to get rid of the lever mark, and so he's definitely not going to invite Squishy, right? Like,
But nobody's
people-
going to apply to a lever key.
yeah,
So, like,
it's not even like levers are going to be playing with each other. Like, they're not going to want to play with each other either. Like, you're just marked. I don't know. I can't wait. That's going to be a very, very funny thing. I can't wait to see which of the people, you're just gonna show up to raid one day. I wonder if you can see it. Show up to raid one day and you just see someone in your raid is marked as a lever.
I mean, I think the solution is is better than suspending the account. Like if you leave too much and you get like a 1 week ban, you just come back a week later and you keep doing what you're doing. But putting you in this hole and forcing you to dig your way out is brilliant, in my opinion. You're forcing them to change if they want to keep playing.
So, something that I think a lot of people actually complain about people who make bad decisions whenever they're leaving dungeons. Not necessarily people who chronically leave, although people who chronically leave obviously are scum. But more often than not, I feel like most people aren't encountering people who chronically leave, just people who are really bad at determining whether or not a key is depleted or not, and they immediately leave even if the key isn't necessarily depleted. And I think that this is a situation that it doesn't necessarily solve that perfectly, although I do think that there's some spots that it could solve that. Like, say you throw up an FF, like say you think that the dungeon's over, you throw up an FF, they vote no, you're like, whatever, I'm gonna keep playing, and then you still time the key. That could, that the fact that they didn't FF out of the dungeon, it could make you continue to play, although it could just make you be like, this shit sucks, and then just leave.
I think this will have the most impact in early season. I think in late season, it's not going to matter at all. But in early season, when you're going for gear rather than timing for score, like, it's going to incentivize people to stick around.
Yeah.
Even if you're a 4. Because, like, let's say the worst case scenario where you have some, like, DPS is like, this key is over, I'm just going to AFK here, I'm not even going to, like, vote or whatever, but the group wants to complete it anyways. The 4 can just kind of keep rolling through the dungeon slowly, and they won't time it, but they'll get through it. And then at some point, the guy who's at the start is probably going to be like, they're on the final boss, like, I might as well just finish it so I can get out of here too. Right? Like, it's kind of like just a mutual, like, let's just get this done at some point. But later on in the season, that won't happen.
Do you think that whenever you list your key is like for completion versus like in time, like that there should be a difference there for the lever penalties?
I'm really, really glad you brought that up, because I personally believe that this should be an opt-in system. Like, if this is a system where you can do this, right, you can go into Group Finder, you can mark your key as for completion, and if people leave before the timer, then they're punished, right? I'm all for that. But let's say you list your key as plus 16, right? And I'm out here and I'm just trying to push keys because it's fun. And I join your plus 16 and you're mad at me, right? And then you're like, well, screw this guy. I'm just going to sit in this key and vote no, right? Because that's something that also happens a lot in Dota, where it's like a guy will be throwing and then also vote no on the forfeit. And he'll just sit there and he'll be like, well, I just live in my mom's basement and I play 12 hours a day and I'm a cat with a waffle on his head and I'm angry right now. So I'm just going to sit here and waste your time, and I'm just going to sit here so you can't leave. And I think for people who do like push Mythic Plus score, I feel like it's kind of annoying, because, like, I don't know, if you're doing a 16, then you're kind of playing it for score, right? Like, what are you even doing? Like, it's can be obvious if the key is depleted. I think there's, like, I don't know, I would like to see it be an opt-in system where, like, you do a ready check at the start of the key, and then it says, also, this is a key for completion. You will be punished if you leave before the timer ends, unless the group votes to. And then you press OK, and then it's like, okay, now it's locked in. But I think that just forcing every single keystone, like, what's going to happen if you're like, so what if we're doing a key session and we're just like, what if it like takes time and we're like too lazy? Is like every high key player just going to be marked as a lever because you're like, leaving Brazil keys or whatever?
I mean, dude, it might be a little bit weird early on, but you'll get into the rhythm of abandoning the key as you're like zoning out.
Yeah, I
guess it won't take long. Like, but assuming it is majority, that's a big if.
What if it zones you out of the dungeon? What if it, like, whenever you forfeit, it puts you at the start of the dungeon, or it puts you in Donegal or something? That would be a good thing. So, like, at least, okay, if you're running keys, then it's like, all right, we forfeited. Now there's at least, like, a reason for me to do this, right? And it's not, like, an extra step for, like, no reason.
That would be nice.
Because, I mean, there's plenty of people who play the game with friends and, like, have absolutely no need for the system. And there's no reason for this to be a thing, right? Like, if you're, for instance, in Dota, if you're matchmaking in rated solo queue, this happens. But if you're in a custom lobby scrimming with with another team, it's not going to punish you if you just leave out of the key, right? Because you're doing it on your own accord. So I don't know. Again, I'm happy. I love that and also they didn't say anything was really set in stone. They're just kind of talking about it. So I think this is a great direction. I'm happy with what they're doing here. I think I just want to make sure that there's no friction here and it causes unnecessary problems.
Okay, so a couple things. So we have I just started looking at this like before. There's a bunch of strings that are related to this. And so I haven't looked through this all. I haven't even made a post on this. There's a bunch of things that are like X votes needed to abandon the instance. X votes needed to abandon the instance. As the key holder, your vote counts as Y. So it sounds like your vote as the key holder actually counts as bonus. Because technically you're putting more on the line. So that's really interesting. Then there's you voted yes, you voted no, abandoned instance question mark, you were away during the vote. Just kind of going through them here because I haven't looked at this. The abandoned instance vote was unsuccessful. Slash abandon. Leaving instance ... So it sounds like it might actually teleport you out.
Oh, that's good.
Another player has left the instance. You can now leave without a penalty.
Oh.
Yep.
Penalty timer. If you don't return to the instance within the remaining time, you'll be kicked from the instance group and receive a penalty for leaving. Time remaining. Blah blah blah.
What's the time? Hold on. What's the timer on that? What happens with people?
We don't know.
Dude, what happens if people are like zoning out to try to change their spec or some shit?
Oh, that's actually really. Wait, are they finally curbing that? That would be an interesting side effect, actually. The good old like hearth to motherload entrance to change your spec.
Dude, I have a rogue friend that I was playing with, Nerda. He literally zoned out of Darkflame Cleft and went sub for Candle King because sub is much better than assassination on that boss. Like, it would delete that shit, huh?
But that looks like about it.
The thing that you said about the key holders vote being more highly coveted, I actually think that that's nice because if say you're a solo guy listing your key in LFG and a 4-stack queues into you, in theory they could actually grief you if they wanted to all vote to abandon the dungeon. I don't know why the fuck you would do this. Like you're just like an absolute asshole if you do this. But
well, it's actually the opposite, right? So what I actually thought was they're griefing the other way. So like imagine you have a key that you have on 16, you have a 16 key, right? But you also would rather do the 15. You don't want to finish it, right? You want to walk out, okay, this key's depleted. I'm the key holder. I want to do my key on a 15, right? You could always do that before. But technically, if your vote didn't count for more, they could literally hold you hostage, finish your key, and then force re-roll it, right?
I mean, people. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. If you're doing this, you're just fucking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Again, we're really stretching here, but I think it's just, I just want it to be a system that rolls out and everyone's like, this is great. This is just a huge dub.
I think that I think there are potential loopholes with stuff like this. Assuming that they can make sure, because I made a video talking about. Oh my god, dude! I made a video like probably 2 years ago talking about how I thought Keystone Deserter would be terrible for Mythic Plus, and every single thing I said was just like, well, if I ever end up getting held hostage, it's just the worst possible thing that could ever happen to me. And this seems like it's, as long as you're not being egregious about it, you should never get held hostage. And it's also a social solution for a social problem because you're just marking their account. There's no.
Yes,
you're not like stuck in Dornegal for 30 minutes like with a Deserter debuff, in which I think I think they cooked on this really hard.
I think they did too. I think it's great, honestly.
Okay, you guys see these mounts? The Keystone Master and Legend mounts? Dude, these things are so ugly.
Okay. When I first saw these, I didn't even notice the difference between the two. Like, I was like, wait, are these different? I thought they were the same mount, but they're slightly different.
Oh, it's so ugly though.
It's a thing.
All right, what else? Where do we want to go next?
I want to talk about. No, actually, go ahead. Pick one.
Is there anything else? Oh, was there anything else with Mythic Plus that we were? Oh, so the weird heroic week. I mean, we made a bench episode that was like 11.1 is out. Now what? And they're kind of starting to curb those kind of things where now the season launches and you can immediately do M0s and delves for champion track gear. I think that this is exactly what I think I was suggesting. I have no complaints about something like this. It's not so much content that you feel overwhelmed. M Plus isn't released. It's not the raid coming out. It's non-bountiful delves, heroic and baseline mythic dungeons, and world bosses. I think that that's, while it's going to be worth your time to do it, to be able to get champion track gear, it's not an abundance of content, but at the same time, I felt like in the past I had effectively no content to do the moment the patch launched, and it felt this. It's one of the only games that the new patch comes out, and I have to wait another week for the content to actually start, and that seemed to be really strange. And so I think that they're going against that, which I think is the smart move.
I think it's a great change. Give something for people to do the week where there's nothing going on, and then they can go right into the raid. I do think it's gonna also lessen that impact of, Heroic Week. You want to just be in Mythic Plus as many hours as possible, because you're gonna start with Champion Gear, and Champion Gear is pretty good. It's obviously not the best, but it's gonna give you a decent amount of eye level. So I think only positives there.
Yeah, personally, I like it. Obviously, as someone who doesn't really care that much about the story and the solo content. I mean, this is, I think especially if you're somebody that does, care a lot about that stuff. Also, this gear might seem a lot more important to you, right? So, like, those aren't necessarily people that are going to be spamming +10s on the first day, right? Like, those are the people that, if anything, it's the most important that they get that gear or whatever, and they're following the Reddit guide for step by step what they need to do. So, again, I'm not sure. I'm worried a little bit, but at the same time, also, we're not
What
talking about
about?
so they're removing the Nothing Burger week, right? That's
Yes,
basically it.
yes.
Essentially.
Yeah, and they're putting gear in now. So now when you log into Nothing Burger Week, you can't. Okay, well, I'm just gonna vibe and do the quests and see the achievements and have fun. Like for everybody, you're gonna be, oh, I need to go do like for. I feel like people in WoW are very very power driven, like basically everybody, and that's sort of the reason that week existed. No.
I mean, you have an entire season to experience the content if you don't want to grind the non-bountiful delves and M0 dungeons and instead wanted to see the story, or alternatively, you wanted to get that more immediate power and then come back at later for the story whenever you have a little bit more time. Both of these things are options. I don't think
I
you
mean, yeah.
Also, like M0s are weekly lockout, if I recall correctly. Like, like unless you're gonna do it on 15 buckets like the Race to World First characters, I don't think you're gonna have that much to do.
those people got nothing to
Right,
do with
like-
it, my thoughts on this at
Yeah,
all.
exactly. Like for me, I might do it on like 2 characters, like one for my Might character, one for my Erudite character, and that will take maybe like it's like a Mythic Zero week, right? Like it's kind of just a chill 3 hours.
We literally laughed about Growl's guy with his Spy Master's Web this week on the bench or on our podcast,
Yeah.
right? We literally this at least gives you some catch up if you wanted to reroll to any character. I think that's a big thing too. Is that there are a lot of my friends who will like quit and they'll be like, they'll like come back at the very beginning of the next season, and this allows you to give some gear catch up at least to them. It's better than going back to old season dungeons and having gear that you can't upgrade in this weird clunky system.
Is this so? What level is this champion gear?
Like what exact item level is this?
Is this better than Myth Track gear currently?
It is, I think, a couple item levels higher, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
I
mean,
can find
again,
that
you're
out.
not. I don't want. It's not me personally. Like, I'm not the one affected, but I guess I just worry a little bit that they're taking away the. I don't know. The problem is like I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I guess not too long ago.
How long does it take you to do 8 M0 dungeons?
I mean, but we're not talking about me, right?
Well, no. How long does it? How long?
Also, is it M0 daily now or no?
No,
they changed it back.
It used to be.
Oh, they changed it back. Okay.
Yeah, because you remember it used to be veteran track but daily, which everybody hated.
Right.
And so they made it weekly but champion, which I think made a lot of sense. And then like there's the world boss available. You kill that once across your account because it now just drops loot. And
yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. Again, I'm for it. I love more stuff to do.
It's
Yeah,
probably I don't know less. It's less than 10 for sure. Maybe less than 5 hours of content total if you also factor in the storyline the storyline questing and stuff.
I mean, as somebody that likes to do that, I'm completely. I will have time for this, and I'm pretty I'm pretty involved in like the storyline, and I do that, and I do the world quest, and I do like all the world stuff that happens to try to get all the mounts.
Yeah, you
like,
got the mount or whatever from the trash farming thing, didn't you?
I farmed.
did, yep.
I'm pretty sure I farmed that for like 8 hours when it didn't drop, just like watching something on the side and didn't get it the first day until they fixed it. I was so mad.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even see the rare once.
Yeah, I think
Did you
this-
farm the cape or whatever? Or what was it? The what do you call it? The jacket or whatever?
Oh yeah, the cool person jacket, the one that Billy was farming.
The trench coat. That's the one I'm thinking
Yeah.
of.
Squishy?
Huh?
You
Sorry.
farmed the-
Did
you
you
farm the
did
trench
you
coat?
farm the yeah, sorry, he was typing on it. Did you farm the trench coat? The dark fuse rep?
So I am now revered. I'm taking my time to get to exalted. I am not like
Okay, that's fair. I was gonna say
Yeah.
that is a one up on you I have, but I guess you'll be there too eventually.
I'll eventually get there. I'm still doing like my under because I'm fucking doing the cartels too, man. The cartels take so goddamn long. I have 3
Oh,
or 4 of them
yeah.
at exalted.
Yeah.
I need one more.
Tazvesh hard mode. So something that we didn't have because we got Floodgate and what is it called? Echo Dome. The Echo Dome Aldani. Something that we didn't have as a mega dungeon for this expansion, but instead they're giving us Tazvesh as a hard mode mega dungeon. So again, we were talking about this week as well, funnily enough, where people, I see there's some appetite for players to have timerless dungeons. It's not for I don't like that. I actually like the pressure of the timer. But they are going to be giving you a Tazvesh hard mode, which is going to be roughly equivalent to a +10, is what they said, and it's going to be rewarded as a +10 as well. So you're going to get hero tracking here from this. I suspect that this is probably not coming out at the same time that M0s are available, even though in theory it's an M0 dungeon, because that would be kind of weird, but
Yeah, I'd agree with that. As a side note, it looks like Champion Gear's 690 at 4 of 8.
690.
Which
So
is when you upgrade it to using your carved crest.
so it's slightly better,
So
but it's usable on with next season's crests is the bigger
Yes.
thing.
But carved crests are not great for the high end group. So like this, you're gonna get a slight upgrade if you do your M0s. If you don't, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Gives you something to do though. Better than chasing dirt.
I did like the harder M0 thing. That was they first did that with Galakron's Fall and Rise of whatever.
Yes.
I think that was really, really cool. I also like that it had good rewards and then it had better rewards if you did it deathless. I think that was a very well received system, and I'm all for other types of content.
I think it was too good because it gave you myth track. I needed that myth track mirrors trinket. That thing was broken.
Oh, here we go. Tettle's gatekeeping myth track loot again.
Yeah.
No, man. That shit felt like you were literally just like trying to RNG it out of your vault. That was nonsense. It's
Like,
not even,
okay,
it's not even close to the same.
I am personally, as a slightly anxious person at times, I do not like the idea of deathless anything. And I do think it exists for a good purpose for like the cause. I like the Mechagon one because it didn't matter for power. It was just like, what was it, Vision of Perfection 4 or something? Like that was kind of fun. The stakes weren't really there, but like doing it for like a myth track mirror trinket, which was BIS, like was rough. But like, I'm glad this exists for people. And the one thing that they said is they're deciding whether or not to add it to it for it to count towards a +10 vault, which is really interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's going to be tuned like a 10, it's going to be untimed, but rewarded like a 10, so it's going to drop hero track. And they said, we'll see about the 10 vault.
I'm interested to see difficulty-wise going into the next season how things are going to feel, because they're going to have to tune stuff up a lot, it feels like, right? Because the power that we've gained this season is so much. Because not only did we get the normal big item level jump, but we have the turbo boost. We have everyone's going to be having giga strong trinkets because of the dinars. We did the delve belt, which is going to be 700 or whatever item level. Like, I'm interested to see. I'm worried a little bit that they may miss the mark on difficulty at the start of the season. I think they maybe learn that they should err on the side of making it too easy and just be like I think I remember they had this sort of idea like during Dragonflight and a little bit of this, like the very first season of this expansion, that 10s should be quite difficult. But by now, like with all the turbo boosts and stuff, like 10s are a meme, right? Like I heard a statistic. It wasn't like only 30% of the keys done now are like less than 12 or less than 10 or something, and like basically everybody is doing like gilded crests or max level keys unless you're like a brand new baby character.
Is that real?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason to go with 10s. I think people are going with 10s. I believe so. We'll need to double check that, but
yeah, I mean that was like I remember hearing that from somebody, but I think that like low keys are actually like kind of dying out, which is funny because if you think about over the course of the last couple expansions, right? Keys got really bloated. They went really high into the 20s, like 30s even. And then they did that key squish where they made Mythic Zero harder and they squished all the keys down. And then everyone was like, oh no, like these keys are too hard. I'm failing at a 7. And now they've sort of bloated the power and made them easy. And now here we are again with like nobody's doing low keys and people are doing 21 keys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, players are always going to complain about any friction that's presented with them, and if they believe that they're entitled to getting myth track gear out of the vault, I mean, if the dungeon, I mean, I thought the last season was too hard personally as well, but I don't know. That's a tough one for Blizzard to solve. Like, should you make it a loot pinata, or should you actually make it be pretty difficult where not everybody's going to be able to get those rewards? Which is what we saw last season, and everybody hated it and stopped playing.
Right. Well, they had a lot of tough break points too, right? Because there was like, because they did the key squish, a lot of the key levels early on became walls, right? Like right now, like if you were to say, okay, 18 keys are a wall and 19 keys are a wall, like yeah, it definitely feels like that.
Nobody's complaining about Guile anymore, by the way. Where the fuck are those people?
Yeah, right. But yeah, back then it was like, just getting into Gilded Crest keys was hard, and then just getting a 10 time was hard, and then breaking into a 12 in a pug felt like impossible. And yeah, I don't I'm kind of indifferent about it. I say I think they should let the gear flow for now because it's the end of like we're nearing on the 3rd season, like we're late into the expansion. I don't think they should err on the side of making things easy, and then if they wanted to rework it or figure it out, I mean, I don't know. I've always been of the belief that I think you should just make gear easy to get. Like I don't like the fact that you have to do these really hard mythic end bosses that require 20-man guilds to get the best gear, but some people do like that.
Yeah.
And I think the same is true for Mythic Plus, right? Like I don't think you should have to be some crazy dungeon player and be going fast and having routes in order to gear up your character.
I think it's kind of like how high regard do you hold gear? I mean, like back in I think gear used to be a little bit more prestigious than it is these days. Now gear is gated behind time more than it is actual skill of being able to get item levels of gear. There is some skill that's gating particular things, like Gallywix, stuff like that. There's skill that's gating behind stuff like that. But in general, a lot of it is more just like, I'm waiting for my next vault, I'm waiting for my next vault, I'm waiting for my next vault. I can craft this piece, I can craft that piece. And then you eventually end up, over time, you end up getting roughly equivalent power.
I think one of the things I want to mention about the Mega Dungeons as well is they mentioned the code boss, Hillbrand.
Yeah.
They mentioned that on Mythic Plus difficulty, they are changing the mechanics so that something like the code always shows. So you don't need to like communicate with your group and be like blue here, green here, and that kind of thing. But that mechanic will still exist on hard mode only.
Oh, the Weakura boss no longer needing a Weakura. It's a miracle.
Yeah, so I don't know, like we'll have to see if you just click it and it just shows up for everybody or what. But I know that was a really big thing for pugs, so pugs will probably be a lot easier in normal or the Mythic Plus difficulty. But the second you get to hard mode, you gotta whip out the collar again and start calling where those things go.
There was just a weak aura, right? I'm sure there'll be a weak aura day one where it just
they could delete. They could delete weak auras between now and then. They haven't said anything.
Oh, true. Wait a second. L take.
I'm just saying they could. It's interesting that they think that 10s are the level in which it's okay to require people to either have voice or have more advanced tactics. That's kind of interesting to me. That's the level that they've determined is where the information asymmetry stuff can exist for dungeons. It is just a hard mode, but they want that to be equivalent to a 10, which it's so interesting to me that they just kind of looking as a lens into Blizzard. That's where they view where players should be looking to communicate with other players. Okay, what's next? Where do we want to go next?
I think we go to the Void Demon Hunter. Did you see this?
No,
I the notes.
I actually
I briefly glanced at it.
So there is speculation right now, and there's no idea if it's copium or not. But So in the Wildcast, they reveal that there is a mysterious council of demon hunters who found their way into Koresh. They are a boss, an optional boss in the raid. That is a whole different discussion.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna talk about. I
Yeah,
thought so. It's
we're
optional boss bullshit.
yeah. We'll go to that in a second. But if you go back up to the picture titles, you'll see on the left there's a Havoc demon hunter.
Yeah.
On the right there's a Vengeance demon hunter, and in the middle,
Dun dun dun.
Is that not a Havoc Demon Hunter as well?
it could be, but it's kind of weird that there's a trio of demon hunters, like playing, like what is it, Occam's Razor? I think
Yeah.
that's it. You would just make 2 demon hunters if you were making them, but why are there 3?
What's Council?
You could, okay.
Tuttles,
People still
you're
can put a
ruining
council.
everybody's fun, man.
Yeah.
This is why the commenters do this.
Squishy. Okay, what do you?
Just pretend there's a Void Demon Hunter spec right
Yeah,
now.
there's just
okay,
a Void
Tuttles?
demon hunter spec coming.
What's this Og fish?
Yeah, Sakura T's dog.
Oh. All right. What's your? All right. Spill the beans. What's the likelihood that there's a third Demon Hunter spec?
50-50. It happens or it doesn't.
All right. Give us some more reasonable odds.
I actually have no idea. Like, this is so odd to me,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's like legit copium or not. But I feel like, Evoker had 2, now it has 3. Like, it makes sense that Havoc has 2, now it will have 3.
Dude, I remember you were on some crackpot theory about there being a new Og spec way before it was announced too, though.
Yeah, but I don't have anything for this. Like, before there was like weird stuff.
With like
This,
it was like on the it was on the Raz encounter or something like that, right? Where you're like,
I actually don't remember.
I can't remember either.
But this is like the only thing right now, and it is very odd for this to be the case, in my opinion.
That is kind of strange that they did put 3 here.
Because if you're making a cool Demon Hunter boss, I feel like you'd make 1 Havoc, 1 Vengeance as like a designer.
I think
I don't really buy
surprised, but
I don't buy into the idea that they would have to do this or anything like that. Like, I could easily see them doing 3, but I also buy into the idea that well, it seems like a very obvious out for them, right? Like, if they're gonna make a new spec for something, right? Like, what would they do? Like giving Demon Hunter a 3rd spec, I feel like makes like the most sense out of anything. So I don't think this is. I kind of like what's cooking here. The idea that like maybe there's something going on. I don't really see like, oh, this council boss or whatever, but I actually didn't know. So you're saying it's an optional boss?
yes. Let me pull this up.
Blizzard described it as optional, to be clear.
Optional Manaforge Omega raid encounter in patch 11.2, and then you scroll down and they talk about it in the blue post, and they list the raid bosses, and then it says the Soul Hunters optional encounter. The last time we've had an optional quote unquote boss was the Butcher and High Maul, as stated on this Wowhead post. Realistically, I don't think the Butcher was supposed to be optional. I guess I didn't start until like right as this tier was ending. The Butcher wasn't like intended on being optional, right? Was she?
I don't know. All I remember was just a lot of controversy. I'm pretty sure all those in that area like were technically skippable. It's just the Butcher's DPS check was so high that you just didn't want to deal with him early.
You could have,
right?
Surely you could have skipped Brackenspore and Tectus as well, right?
But they were so like Tectus was a meme.
Okay,
right?
that's why I
Like,
was pissed.
Tectus rocks, like that whole meme, like. But Butcher's DPS check was so real that many guilds just skipped it, and it caused controversy in the Race to World First. I remember that.
So there's a couple things with this that we should tackle. For the Race to World First, they're gonna have to figure some shit out for the race. Not them being Blizzard, them being the participating guilds. As to does this count for Race to World First? Like, should we kill this boss? Is kind of an interesting question. For the Hall of Fame, we saw that they changed the Hall of Fame this season to require all bosses, but it looks like it doesn't require the Soul Hunters. Is this real?
So that's the issue right now. It seems a little buggy because it requires killing Dimensius 7 times, which, but assuming that's going to be changed, there are 7 bosses without the Soul Hunters. And we know they're probably going to change it after what happened last season. So I
actually just hate the idea of an optional boss. This might be a weird take. I like, why would you make a boss in a raid if it's optional? Like, I just just make every boss required. No, like what's the purpose of the boss and the raid if it's optional? Like, okay, it does have insane gear. I have seen some of the. Basically, we're going to talk about the artifact cloak in a little bit. It has some insane gear for your artifact cloak, but why not just make this boss required?
Don't know. Maybe some flavor, some texture.
Is this really the kind of texture that we want to give people who are raiding? Is like,
it seems a little bit off. I don't like. Doesn't it like optional boss?
That's
Like
what I'm
it just
saying.
it doesn't really, you know, like
the only time I can think of like an optional boss is like when I'm playing a roguelike game and I'm like, do I have enough, you know, if I kill this optional boss, I get a buff, but it's probably gonna take my
the
health away or
horrific
something.
visions had optional bosses. We could go to more wings or not.
Exactly. I don't know. It's odd. I think most guilds will probably kill it, and the community will say you need to kill all 8 bosses to be ranked. Blizzard probably won't see it that way, but like that's kind of how I feel about it.
I just my gut reaction is I don't love this. I don't feel so strongly about it where I need to like make a stance or anything like that. But it just seems so strange to me that they're giving you optional bosses. Especially since it is a council fight ultimately as well. Like, why would you spend so much time? Why would you spend so much time designing a boss if it's just gonna be optional? And like, raid is supposed to be like the
what does that even mean though? Like, what does it even mean optional? Like,
in theory,
the game, like, you don't need to kill it to get to the last boss.
Yes.
And so like, if you want to skip it, you can go further in the raid. Like, but just that one boss this one time. I guess like to me, if it, like, I don't know, the way I see optional bosses is I would assume, and I don't think this is the case, but I would assume it would be something that's like really, really tough, right? And it's like you're not expected to be able to kill this until way later on in the tier, or like if you're a really good guild. But and you do the exact reason why I don't think this is the case, right? Is because you pull up the list of bosses and it's purposefully listed as the 5th boss. So like I feel like if this was meant to be the Omega, you know, secret boss or like hard boss or like optional boss, that it would be listed at the end. No,
Squishy, Raw Din in not Throne of Thunder. Was it Throne of Thunder?
Yeah. What about it?
Was an optional, right?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, see, what does that even mean, right? What does it even mean to have an optional boss? Like,
technically, the final boss was an achievement for him, but like technically it was optional because like I don't know, man. I don't know what this means. But I think the committee, like I said, is just gonna like you have to kill this.
I think.
Like the only way I can see this being good is if the boss just sucks, right? Like, right? Like, I mean, like the only way I see this is good is like imagine Stone Legion Generals, and that's like an optional boss, and it's like, all right, fine, we just won't do this shit, you know? Like, this is terrible. I'm out all these days. Like, dude, it just doesn't. You know, when I think of optional, I think of like you go. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I'm not really, you know, I'm not saying remove the boss or like, you know, make rules about it just doesn't make any sense. It just feels weird.
What was that dumbass bird in Hellfire Citadel, Socratar?
The one to throw the
glaive. Wasn't that an optional boss? Like
no.
No. Did you actually have to kill it to continue to progress up the tower?
I think so.
Okay, I couldn't remember. It's been so long.
So all right. I looked at the dungeon. All right. The Havoc Demon Hunter casts the Hunt, Blade Dance, Eye Beam, Fell Blade. The Vengeance Demon Hunter casts Fracture, Frailty, Spirit Bomb, Sigil of Change, and Immo Aura.
Okay.
They all cast it. And then you have the last one, which casts Devourer's Ire, Consume, Unending Hunter, Void Step, and Eradicate.
Okay, can you tell what does abilities do?
All void shit.
Well, the point is that there's 2 bosses that have names like exactly what Demon Hunter names are.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like if they wanted to do 2 DPS Demon Hunters, they would just have divided the DPS Demon Hunters names into different mechanics, right? But because they specifically made all of one of them be a Havoc and all the Havoc names, and then the third one just has all these new names. No, I think you're cooking here. I think this is a new Demon
Hunter.
Get
the tinfoil hat. Get the tinfoil
hat. Oh, it's on. It's my tinfoil hat. The viewers know it's always on. I just live with it on.
Growl is a S tier conspiracy theorist.
All right.
We want to talk about tier sets?
Yeah, let's do it.
Dude, they did some crazy shit with tier sets. So the TLDR is tier sets. You're now going to be able to get 5 pieces of tier, and you're going to effectively have 2 tier set bonuses relative to what hero talent you have selected. Where whenever you swap from, well, I'll use Druid as an example. I was looking at this one earlier. Whenever you swap from Elun's Chosen Balanced Druid to Keeper of the Grove Balanced Druid, it has 2 very distinct tier set bonuses, and that works for all of the specializations. It's kind of interesting. I thought initially, whenever I heard this, I was like, how is this going to work with hybrids? And the way it works with hybrids is they're largely not the same. They kind of are cut from the same cloth, but they're not exactly like the same tier set bonus in that way.
So
I think if you're a theory crafter that tries to come up with stuff and innovate things, and like you're switching between hero talents for situations, I think it's really cool, and the idea is like cooking. Unfortunately, for the way that 99% of people play WoW, unfortunately, is they just go to their favorite streamer or their favorite guide website or YouTube or whatever, and they find a build, like, and they just want that build. Like, for most people, the dream situation is they just want to have one build and they don't think about it, and it's the same build for literally everything they do. Because, like, I feel like there's already way too many, like, stacking multipliers and things and stuff. And I'm not trying to hate on tier sets, but, like, I don't know if adding complexity or variety to, like, okay, your tier set changes depending on different, I don't know. I like, it's cool, don't get me wrong, and I actually like a lot of the bonuses, so I don't want to hate on it, because a lot of the bonuses, but at least from the healer specs I looked at, are cool.
Yeah.
But I do think that, like, at the end of the day, what's the difference? This is basically just another layer baked into your hero talents, right? Like, you're just going to look up a guide and say, okay, what's the best one?
So
It's not.
It is another layer baked into your hero talents, but I don't think that they've actually done much with hero talents this expansion. As is something that was supposed to be the marquee feature of the expansion. It's had kind of low amounts of development uptime. They haven't really changed many of them. They have changed some, but they haven't changed a large portion of them. And for most specializations, they've been playing one hero talent for Raid and one hero talent for Mythic Plus for the entirety of the expansion. And largely it's the same hero talent for both, for like basically the entirety of this expansion. And this allows Blizzard to have like another tuning knob for continuing to kind of update them and change them and potentially change
I
just how
mean,
they feel
they
to
have
play.
enough tuning knobs. You're telling me that
Well,
they don't
no.
have enough tuning knobs there?
This is like giving them 2 more. This is like giving your hero talent 2 more nodes, is what this kind of is.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, there's already way too many nodes, is what I'm saying. Like they have plenty of nodes to tune. Like, they're literally struggling with how to come up. Like,
you
your
can make
bark skin gives you 6%, extra DR. Like, I don't know. I feel like they again, like, that's like, that was my biggest problem with hero talents, is like I feel like they were way too complicated already, and I feel like they put way too much emphasis on trying to make them good while leveling. But the leveling process in this game is just so dog shit, and you just speed through it. And so it's like, why does it matter if you get this 1 point for like the 17 minutes that you're level 72 until you're level 73? And I know this isn't like a top player only thing, because I know everyone else. I've watched people level. Like, I watch a streamer who's like a super casual player, and they have like some, time walking, speed running guy that they boost their friends on and shit. And it's like, nobody likes to level in WoW. And I feel like there's no reason that each hero talent needs to have all these nodes, and it should just be like, the core. I just really think they need to like simplify. Like, they're literally in the hero talent. Isn't there like a button?
You're arguing about
in the
button,
talent
you're
window?
kind of arguing about button bloat and like proc bloat relative to. I think that, like, just purely looking at these as like tier set bonuses, I think these are cool. Like,
sure. Oh no, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
I think the approach of how you're getting them as well, where you're swapping them between hero talents. Generally speaking, yeah, what you're saying is right. Most people are only going to interact with whatever a guide tells them to. But I mean, I think this is much better than the jackpot dog shit that we had from 11.1, where it was homogenized. Like, this is twice as cool even than that.
Oh, definitely more cool. Definitely more cool. I'm more talking about the individual specific bonuses, right? Like, I'm looking at the bonus and I'm thinking like, okay, this is going to be fun, right?
These
Like,
bonuses are really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. The first thing is, I actually think more than anything, these lean more to the flavor than anything else. right? Like most of these lean heavily into the hero talent flavor, which I think was their goal. I also think that these are fucking powerful. Holy shit, are these powerful?
Yeah,
Some of these
very
are some of these
powerful.
are quite good. Yeah.
Holy moly.
There's one
The
for Ellie
enhancement shaman one?
There's one for Ellie too that I thought I just read it and I was like they're absolutely smoking crack in the Irvine
enhancement
office.
shaman one is absolutely disgusting right now. I was talking to Word Up earlier and he was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
Which one? Is the Stormbringer one, I suspect.
It's the Ascendance one. I think that one.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
they're both really good.
I mean, dude, the same thing for Ellie is. I read it and I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah,
Okay.
Go
I
ahead.
have something that I just want to add in a little bit to kind of like maybe I think I understand why they're doing this now because now I'm sort of thinking about the expansion as a whole. Previously they've had to steer away from a lot of different abilities because you make a tier set, right? That makes like let's say you changed an ability that made one hero talent tree completely way better than the other, right? And it makes it very hard for them to make the hero talents balanced if the tier sets interact with any of those spells, right? Like I don't know that much about Moonkin, but there's like the one that's the dots and one that's like the treants, or no, that's Resto. But either way, like let's say they make a tier set about treants, it's like, well, the treant hero tree is just going to be way OP, right? Because you don't even interact with the hero
exactly.
talent. Yeah. So I guess it's not. Yeah, I guess it just gives them more options, and I feel like maybe even in this season they sort of ran into that, right? That's why we got this weird like global jackpot system, is because they realized that like how many tier sets can we make when so many skills are off limits because of hero talent. So now they're kind of like, yeah.
Do you remember Dragonflight launch whenever they were like, first season you're gonna get bland here, you're gonna get bland tier set bonus, and as the season goes, as the expansion goes on, we're gonna give you tier set bonuses that more directly tie into specific talents, and they might force you to play builds effectively, and that that ended up happening, and that ended up being true. With this expansion, we've had largely low impact, or like
I think people didn't like that, right?
Well,
people didn't, they wanted more impact on the tier set.
Exactly.
So that's actually so to revise my statement, then I understand why they need to do this, because if they want to make your hero talents like what you can choose which one you like, they may need to make different tier set bonuses for each hero talent tree, because like if they make one, it could be insane for one and not the other.
Yeah, precisely.
And realistically, it's not doing any other extra work. It's the same number of bonuses, right? Instead of just per spec, it's per hero talent. So
sort of, but like I guess like one thing I worry about is like, okay, let's say you play, and again, some people might find this good gameplay, but so for Resto Druid, right? I think one of the hero talents makes your Convoke Giga Strong for healing. Normally it's like kind of piss, but you have a hero talent tree that makes your Convoke Giga Strong for healing. Well, like what if you need to switch between them, and then it's like it will feel really weird to be like, okay, now your Convoke is all, like randomly just doing Omega in this one hero talent tree and not the other. But I don't know, maybe that's good. Like I just think there's a
I don't know. I guess that's why I don't love hero talents. I mean, we're starting to go down the path of why I think that we just have a lot of talent bloat in general, and it's not even just like the buttons. I think that rotationally specs are fairly simple. It's not like the 5 or 6 buttons that you're pressing that matter. It's the 15 or 16 procs, like secondary procs that you have, that matter way more than the 5 or 6 buttons that you're pressing.
Individual abilities just are so soft now. Well, so one thing that's funny, and I'm not going to get into the one button rotation. I don't want to do that. But one thing, listen, but real quick, just to like as a thing to think about, right? Is a lot of people saw the GCD penalty and said, okay, this means it's X% damage, right? If you're casting 30% less, right? But really, it wildly changes depending on the spec, right? Like if you're a class that needs to hit a bunch of times in a short window, that hurts you a lot. Or if you're a class that has really bad filler spells, it actually might hurt you way less, right? And it just like sort of thinking about the weight of how different abilities hit like changes dramatically depending on the class or the build or whatever.
Yeah. Overall though, like I think this is a pretty unique take on tier sets. I don't think it solves the problem that I have with them, but I think it's just something new, and I think that's fine for the majority of people, right? Like I think that's fine.
For me, this is what I want out of tier sets, frankly. I want things that feel relatively decent, like relatively high impact, that interact one-to-one with my kit. that's kind of what I want out of tier sets, and that's what I've always kind of wanted out of tier sets. And we've had some really low impact ones lately over the last 2 seasons. Most of them have not, and it's not true for every single spec, but it's true for most specs that they've been relatively low impact. And these feel like it's just like, yeah, you can have everything. Like, yeah, you can have anything you ever wanted actually in your tier set.
Yeah, I think this is great for me, is that I think this goes into the category of a lot of other stuff this patch of they're taking a little bit of a risk here and they're extending themselves from what they normally do, and it may have some downsides, but I like it, right? Like I like what they're trying to go for, and potentially like if they achieve what they want to achieve, that's a dub.
Yep. Okay. Next thing we got are the Reshi wraps. So there's an artifact cloak in the patch. Squishy, it seems like the cloak has been data mined and it's got some effects that are data mined. What's going on with this?
It's a cloak. It's going to be account wide. You're going to upgrade it week to week, and it's going to be used for the majority of the patch. There are no secondary effects on it that we data mined, but I'm pretty sure there are supposed to be as you upgrade it.
It looks like you can,
just due to some other things.
It looks like you can put some on them, right?
Yeah. So there is something called a fiber socket in it, and you get the fiber socket from tailors this patch. So if you're a tailor, you're finally about to make some gold. Hopefully, you can put haste versus mastery crit. Pretty straightforward. It's pretty cheap, but tailors are going to be in demand. But depending on your role, tank, healer, DPS, you are going to get a special effect if you want to scroll up, which is right there. It looks like garbage when it's all combined, but yeah. So you're going to get something there. We talked about the optional Demon Hunter boss earlier. That boss drops boots for every like armor type that increases the effect of that special effect by 50%.
So this is going to be Biss.
Probably. But the cloak can be upgraded, so like I'm assuming that this is going to keep getting better and better.
I think these Reshi Wrap cloak procs are quite underwhelming. Maybe my expectation for something that was announced as an artifact cloak was too high, because I'm sitting here thinking of the necklace from BFA or something like that. But these procs that we are seeing here are not exactly.
We don't know how they scale.
I mean, okay.
We're gonna upgrade the cloak from week to week.
Does it really matter how they scale if my proc deals direct damage to enemies, increases by 20% whenever they're below 35% HP? Like, is that?
I mean, they could hide something in there like they did with the belt. They've been testing weird stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure the legendary cloak in Visions didn't have one of its effects until like rank 11 or something. Remember that?
Oh my god! It had a stat bonus proc that you got.
That was the big one. That was the big one too.
I forgot about that until you just said it.
It's entirely possible that like at certain breakpoints they're gonna add more secondary stats. They're gonna add primary stat proc. They're gonna add more stuff. Like, we don't know enough about this thing right now, other than this is the base, and you're gonna upgrade it. So maybe there's more.
Okay, I hope there's more. You know what? I'll hold my tentative criticism, my tentative negative criticism, by saying if this is it, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed. I hope there's more, because this could be super cool. Just having an artifact item, because we had legendaries last expansion, but they were only for evokers and a strength axe. Like, I don't know that, so it felt like I kind of missed out on anything that was kind of cool like that, where at least it works for everybody here.
I feel like part of an MMO and is the whole idea of like finding super cool things, right? Whether it's an artifact or a legendary or whatever. But WoW is also very competitive, and I feel like they're definitely testing their footing a lot with how do we have something that feels really cool to get. I think the last thing that I can remember that people really liked was like the Legion artifact weapons. Everyone speaks very highly of those. But it feels like a lot of the stuff since BFA has been pretty formulaic. It's either formulaic or it has a lot of like acquisition problems that, upset people. And I don't know, I guess I'm interested to see, like, it feels a little bit much. Again, it's one of those things where is it just going to be like, okay, you just do your chores every week and then you equip it and that's just BIS for the, is there going to be any decisions? Is it going to change the way you play? Do you want it to change the way you play? Like, I don't know. I think it's whatever. Like, I don't know. I think it has a much less impact on the game for me, at least, than, You know, like it's almost something that it just is sort of a chore, right? Like the delve belt. Like this is basically everybody's interaction with the delve belt is you probably spent your first day or two doing the delve quests, right, on your main or maybe alts, doing whatever delves you needed. You looked up a guide or you just walked in with the charge bolt one. You either realize or didn't realize that it just ruthlessly breaks CCs everywhere in the dungeon, and you griefed your team with it. Then you said, okay, well, let me move to a stat proc, and now you never think about it again, and it's literally just going to sit on that one stat proc that you never look at or notice or care about for the whole time. I wonder, like, I don't know. Is there like some merit to have it? I mean, I guess I don't really mind stat procs. Like, it's way better than like, you know, random corruption that's just spewing things from your character and creating random things on details. I don't know. Maybe I feel like there's really something to this though, because they really are just doing this over and over and over again, right? Like, it is just every single patch we just have like, okay, here's the item of the patch, and you really care about this, and you got to do your chores every week to upgrade it. Like, it is just Cersei circlet and this ring and this legendary and this artifact. Like, they just do this so
Yeah.
much, don't they? And
But-
like even Shadowlands, like they had the legendary system, but more or less it was like the same repeatable chore that you did every season, and you had to farm it, and then you got the powers, and then you upgrade it. And you had
Ah,
to do your
shit. Yeah, you're
Torghast.
right. Damn.
they mentioned that you'll get this currency from everything basically. So like, I assume it's pretty trivial to do, and I think that's fine, honestly.
I also think
Yeah.
that them starting out, you spoke a little bit on the acquisition process. I think them starting out by saying this is account wide is, thank God. Like, dude, this shit
Dub.
is so annoying whenever it's like not account wide. Everybody's just like, thank God.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
complaints. I just think there isn't really much to say, and I think that Squishy makes a good point of, well, there might be a lot of stuff to say, we just
Yeah.
don't know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be cool. I think that the baseline procs that they've shown, I'm just like, kind of on all of them. Especially because we have so much with our own individual kits. This feels just like another delve belt proc. It's just like another extension of my kit.
It's a piece that you won't need, which is good for better or for worse.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. All right. Beyond that, there's not actually. Is there any other news? Because the only other thing that I saw was that the testing is starting for Raid next Thursday, and the testing for Mythic Plus is starting next Tuesday. Was there anything?
I thought the
else that we saw?
Wowhead interview was very interesting, or the
I mean, what,
yeah.
was there specific highlights that you guys wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I
interviews?
definitely would want to go through, unless you guys
Growl
are trying to. Dude,
Growl wants to talk about resilient keys, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
So first off, I would like you to intro this person, Tettles, because this is a name that, and again, based off of my rant about PC Gamer, I don't know a lot of people, and I don't pay enough attention as I should. You had mentioned his name was what was it, Drew DeSouza?
Andrew D'Souza or Drew D'Souza.
Andrew D'Souza, and you had mentioned that he's somebody who had made a lot of good changes to Mythic Plus or something recently. You had mentioned him on your stream.
I mean, he's been one of the lead encounter designers that's been pushing forward a lot of the Mythic Plus stuff, basically since the end of Shadowlands was the first time that I met him, and I think that he is one of the driving forces about what's been super good. And I think he's actually very in tune with what's actually going on with Mythic Plus a lot as well. Where I know he ends up doing a lot of dungeons on a per season basis. Who was the other person that was in this interview with you guys? Squishy? Taylor
Sanders.
Taylor Sanders. Okay.
Tettles, we met him at BlizzCon at the event. He was upstairs.
Oh, okay. I actually do remember meeting him. Wow.
Yeah, it was me. It was me, you, Dratnos, and we were on the upper level of the event.
Yeah.
and
Oh
we
my
met
God,
him.
the Blizzard mixer thing. Yeah. I do remember meeting him. Okay, that's crazy. I had a brain blast whenever you said that. Okay, so you
Yeah, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot about him. It was just someone that you had mentioned that was. I personally think that they've really cooked a lot in Mythic Plus. Like I remember, I feel like once people really refined down, like started getting good at Mythic Plus during Shadowlands, they really started hammering against like the problems in the system, and then they really like cooked and made a lot of quality of life changes and have been improving on different things. And I loved hearing him talk about issues. Like a lot of the questions questions in here were bangers. Like there was some like very, very relevant questions that like stuff like that we talk about.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
that's why oh yeah, oh wow, oh yeah, it's a Wowhead interview. Of course the questions were great.
I think,
No, but for real though, there's a lot of issues that like myself or Dorky will talk about on our streams like very, very, very often that I thought were good in here.
I think that Drew, and I don't know this about Taylor Sanders, but I think that Drew is actually very in tune with the WoW community, ends up watching a lot of World of Warcraft content, does a lot of Mythic Plus, and just kind of tries to take in as much as possible. And then he's also willing to take some chances on some things. You know, Mythic Plus could have been formulaic where we continue to still have affixes and stuff like that. And, you know, I think that the encounter design team, particularly the people who are designing Mythic Plus, are willing to take some really heavy-handed approaches at changing dungeons just to see where we land. And then, you know, maybe if it's not great, we'll reassess next season.
Right. So I'll go into the first question, and it's not detailed, but it's something that I feel like we really learned this expansion as well, and I think they're learning about as well. They talked about the rewards for week 1. And he basically specifically mentioned that when you log in the day of the update, we want you to have something to do. And the fact of the matter is, so many people, they just want to upgrade their character and gain power. And I love to see that he said those two things and he mentioned that in this paragraph, because I feel like they seem very in tune with that idea of how important player power is in upgrading characters. And, you know, I sort of had this, I didn't necessarily defend the idea that like, oh, we need a nothing burger week to do the story, but it really does point into, you know, it's important to realize that like more casual people and the average player also wants to log in and upgrade their character, right? Like just, you know, to say that someone's a casual player doesn't mean they don't care about upgrading their character. And even people, you know, that don't do mythic rating or whatever are still excited to log in on day 1 of patch. I think it's really, really cool that he mentions this, and it's sort of like, you know, maybe I am a little bit out of touch in that area. Maybe there really aren't that many people that care about, oh, I need to log in and do the story, and I'm torn between upgrading and story. And like maybe the bulk of the player base of WoW really is just, you know, wanting to log in and open their vault and start doing the new dungeons and stuff.
Well, I don't think it has to be everything, right? Like it doesn't have to be this all or nothing thing. It could, and that's why I think that delves and M0s are just like the perfect level of content to really start you on the right foot in the season, right? It's like getting everything ready.
Yeah, it targets the people, like Tettle said, that just come back, they play for a couple weeks, and leave again. Helps them get caught up for the raid, then they do the raid, then they leave again, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, they know that those are kind of, I don't say their target audience, but they know that players will come back as well for the new seasons every single time. Or maybe they'll, you know, go back to MOP, or they'll go play SOD, or they'll go play, you know, a different game, but then they'll eventually come back. And having that week, you know, it's the patch launch. That's the cool week of the season where you get to see everything. But as it stood before, there was like kind of nothing, but now you can actually use it as a catch-up week. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just skim through some of the important parts that I liked. So to go to the tank threat question, it's something that I don't think the people are going to want to hear, but I actually kind of had a little bit of an aha moment, and now I might be a tank threat troll person now when it comes to these discussions. So he was talking about tank threat, and he basically said what we'd expect him to say, right? That like, you know, we like tank threat, we want it to exist, we don't want to get rid of it. One thing he did said that I did find kind of funny was, I really like that Drew said, it's important that you're not ripping off a tank 30 or 40 seconds into the pull or whatever, you know, whatever doesn't seem right. And I kind of mentioned that whatever, like that was one of the main problems is like, if you're pulling in AoE tons of mobs off the tank, this is a problem, right? But then he says, but there is still some gameplay here in having the tank gather some mobs. There are player tools like misdirect and tricks that helps you do it. And I kind of thought for a second, I'm like, well, you know, maybe it is your fault, right? Like if you go into a key and you're playing Dev Evoker and you just don't invite anybody that can help the tank, right? Like you would look, if all I'm saying is this, right? You would go into a key and you would whine about, oh, we didn't invite a priest for Mind Soothe, and we didn't invite someone for this, right? So if you go into a key and you have a Dev Evoker, maybe you do need to consider like, okay, what characters pair well with Dev Evoker? And I don't know, right? Sane could come in here and call me a moron and be like, watch me rip thread off of a full pack that's tricks, and I could be wrong. But so I was doing a couple keys with Dorky's like complete rat Brewmaster that he's trying to gear up the other day, right? And we were playing with a couple people from the stream, and Dorky's like, he makes a comment about his threat. He's like, "Dude, I'm holding really well here." And then the rogue in the group says, "Yeah, Trix is putting in work." And I kind of thought, I'm like, wait a second, like, it's probably this rogue completely carrying Dorky. The fact that we have a rogue that's permanently trixing Dorky actually enables Dorky to play this dog shit tank and not lose threat all the time. And then it's like, well, wait a second, like, there are tools in the game to deal with threat. We just, you're just not inviting them. So again, from a high-end perspective, it might feel bad to be like, well, okay, Rogue is not doing good damage, which is not true, so we can't invite it. But from a pug perspective, maybe I'm sure there's a lot of rogues out there that are saying, yo, Preach, like, please invite me. Like, yes, I do bring this. Like, how do you sit here on a pedestal and constantly complain about tank threat and then just not invite me, and you just keep inviting DKs who blood beast and blow up the pack and then be like, I just thought it was funny that he said that, because I agree with what he's saying about I know I'm filibustering a little bit, I apologize, but I just thought it was a cool comment that made me think a little bit about threat. And I'll let everyone in the comments is done writing their I hate Growl, he's an idiot take, so you guys can. Yeah, sorry.
I think there's two different things at play here. There's encounter designer team and there's the class designer team, right? The encounter designer team, realistically, they want the tanks to have threat on the fucking mobs, right? Like they're not designing these mobs to be off tanked by some dev evoker who's just pressed engulf and just ripped the entire pack. And with that being the case, like they're planning the dungeon for the tank to be able to have threat. And I think that the thing that is the most frustrating with it is whenever you're playing well and you still, like, as a tank, and you still feel like you can't maintain threat. Like, yeah, sure, you could get one of these tools like misdirection or tricks, but I'm of the opinion that these tools and timelessness from Augevoker should not exist in the game. Like, it's not. I think that most people tend to agree that if a Havoc Demon Hunter is opening up on a trash pack, the tank is just glaved, and he's 30 yards away from the tank, and he's opening up with I-Beam on the pack, he probably deserves to get melee to death and die. I also think that most people tend to agree that nobody wants a tank to gather 75 mobs and kite them for 3 minutes around the entire dungeon. Nobody wants any of that. But there's a middle ground between my tank is able to have threat and my tank is kiting 75 mobs away, right? Like there is a middle ground here. And I think it's, if the tank is actively hitting the mobs, he should just have threat. Like the mobs should just be kind of glued to him. And it just feels really bad whenever it's not like that.
I think the thing that for me is just like, I don't think there are actually that many tank tools to pull back threat. If taunt was like didn't have a cooldown or had like a 1 second cooldown, I'd kind of agree. But like when you get pulled off of and the entire pack runs away, there's no saving that. So, like there's nothing that you can do.
There's one tool. It's AoE taunt from Warrior, but they use that to interrupt mobs.
Like, I do think like if they like threat, they need to give tanks more tools to deal with threat. That is the big thing to me. Like, every tank should have an AoE taunt with a semi-long cooldown, but that is usable when things go wrong. Because, realistically, they mentioned misdirect here, but the most popular spec that has misdirect doesn't actually use misdirect because it's garbage. That being BM Hunter, right?
That's
like,
fair.
BM Hunter misdirect is completely garbage. Marks is good, but, like, people don't like playing Marks. Tricks exist, people don't like playing Rogue. So, like, I could see, like, your point, Growl. Like, I agree with you. Like, it's a reason to bring these things, but I feel like it almost needs to be, if they're relying on it, it needs to be with more specs. And also give tanks more tools outside of them to deal with it. Because, like, I think it's fun. I think it would be fun if there were more options to deal with threat. If it was something that they actually cared about, like, oh, I did AoE taunt this pack because my Dev Evoker has big cooldowns, cool. Like, why doesn't every tank have like a AoE taunt on a minute or 2 minute cooldown to match it with their, with their DPS cooldowns? I think that would help solve a lot of the problems. It's just the problem right now is tanks just don't have anything to deal with it.
I don't think the game gets better if more specs have misdirection or tricks for what it's worth.
I would tend to agree. I think the bigger thing is giving more agency to tanks and more options for them to deal with threat if they believe it is actually valuable.
I'm with you there.
Did my camera just... Okay.
Oh, I might have been on my end.
Yeah. Also, the
did you have
world
a
just
rebuttal
needs.
there?
Well, I mean, I just want to point out that the world just needs more tanks as well. So as much as I can talk about that, it's an interesting system or whatever, or there are counterplays. Like at the end of the day, we need to get more people playing tanks and dungeons, and making things, taking away their agency or making things more difficult for them is not something that should be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Um,
Because like they even mentions like it's frustrating when somebody just pulls off you, like or your tank pulls
yeah.
off you. And I agree. You like there needs to be a solution for that, more taunts or like something like that. But what they're doing is they're adding shadow meld to everybody next patch. Pull it
Oh
up.
shit! Segue. There you go.
So
Wait.
if you're at risk of pulling threat, check out the new potion available at Growl's Potion Emporium.
Jangbi is an alchemist. I just want
Oh,
to point
okay,
out
sorry,
that
Jang B's
or no, wait,
Alchemy
am I? Oh,
Emporium.
actually, that's a lie. I'm not an alchemist. I don't know why I said
Okay.
that. But I do
Also-
do professions on Jangbi. But yeah, so basically, we were talking about why they needed to remove Shadow Meld from the game and why it creates problems from dungeons. And because of the massive impact of Blizzard listening to me and all of the things that I say and me getting things implemented, Blizzard has just given everybody Shadow Meld in the entire game. So now there's a potion that, first of all, from a racial balance point of view, I like this a lot. I think that being forced to play an ugly character for a gameplay reason sucks. Not to say that Nelfs are ugly, but to you they might be ugly, right? Like everybody, to each their own. If you want to play Horde or whatever, it sucks to have to play Night Elf. So basically what this is you can now use your potion cooldown to Shadow Meld. It's a very interesting choice. I think that it will, again, people are like, oh, Blizzard money hungry. They want you to race change. Like they're literally giving you an option so that you don't have to in the future. If you're a tank that can't go Shadow Meld or whatever, or just doesn't want to, now you have the ability to buy a potion and you can just do the skip, right? If you're a warrior or whatever.
I have an insane cook. I
Okay.
would love to see Blizzard separate damage potions, health potions, and then a third type of potions, utility potions. And
I'm a huge believer in that too, because I think utility potions are really, really fun part of the game, especially for like support classes, tanks, healers.
I mean, there's so many cool utility potions too, like wind gust potion. Now there's this. There's
Shocking
invisibility
Disclosure.
potions. Shocking Disclosure is a damage potion. Please be serious.
Is it?
Yes, it does damage.
Oh, threat. Okay.
Yep. Please be serious. That's a damage potion. That's very different. But yeah, I think that utility potions. We've seen speed potions in the past as well. There's a lot of them, and I wish that they would like kind of be categorized in their own specific way. It's kind of like a health pot, right? Like I think that the separation of health pot and damage potions is fantastic, and I mean I think it's 100% the correct way of doing it because it's like okay, weird. But then you could also put like mana potions on the utility potion front, and I think that's the correct place to put mana potions as well. Like I think that there's a lot of cool potions that I wish I could use more often, but I've never thought about them because the alternative is like damage. Like all right, come on.
Like after this, are people just gonna go like dwarf and then just melt
well,
like
so I said nobody's gonna race change, but from a high end player point of view, literally everybody's gonna switch to dwarf now.
Yeah, like I feel like it's gonna be dwarf plus meld post pot. Like
What if they? Well,
damage potions aren't that actually impactful damage wise. I haven't done some this expansion, but in the past, every single time you end up pressing a DPS potion, it would normally on a per player basis shave off like 1/10 to 2/10 of a second. So over the course of an entire dungeon, it could be relatively impactful. You're probably shaving upwards of like 5 to 10 seconds off total just by the damage that was gained via the potions. That is in the past. Yeah. I don't know necessarily what it looks like right now, but that's why whenever Sky Steps and Lightfoot potions were a thing, you would jam those on CD as opposed to ever pressing a damage potion because they were always so much better.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll all go.
Very interesting though. I think this was a very interesting response to the whole everybody's, because it was very clear that even at a not super competitive level, people were doing Shadow Meld skips, and this was a very interesting answer, right? Because I was thinking that the Shadow Meld is becoming a problem in their dungeon design, and people are like doing these crazy skips to get around things that they thought were supposed to be intentional, but they're like, oh well, let everybody meld. Like these skip, like we don't mind these skips at all. Like if you're skipping hobgoblins, like personally, I find the skips rather annoying. I don't know, like I just don't really find the gameplay of like being in a no comms key and my tank just pulls the guy and my Moonkin literally runs in and just presses Moonfire on it because he just has no idea what's going on. Like I don't really like the gameplay of that, of like expecting to do skips of things like bubbles and stuff. But I don't know, like this is like another good option as well, making it so everybody can meld on a certain. I mean, as a healer, I love this, right? Like being able to use a potion to drop combat. I mean, this is essentially like an omega mana pot, right? Because technically you could get out of combat and drink,
res.
and then yeah, exactly. This is great for a healer. So I think it's I love utility potions. I agree with you. I wish it was off the cooldown with DPS pots, but I'm interested to see how they going forward with dungeon design and true sight mobs.
I cannot wait for Race to World First Skills to test this pot on every single raid mechanic in the raid. Like,
yeah,
it's like, like you have a split cleave mechanic, and it's like, well, can we melt pot this? No, okay.
Well,
I'm sure that Blizzard's gonna forget one of them, and you're gonna be able to do it.
You already do that with meld whenever you're testing whenever you're testing raids, no?
No,
you do kind of, but
a little bit.
I mean,
meld is
maybe I'm just like a fucking weirdo. I try to meld anything that targets me ever. I'm just my first button I press is meld every single time to test everything.
Like, I agree with that. Like Invis, like Feign Death are the more common ones, I would say, because they usually work more. But I bet you like meld might work on like one of them because Blizzard will forget something.
I mean, dude, maybe it's just the dungeon or NP. It's just my first gut reaction. Mob targets me. I see my name on target frame. Meld. Let's see if he'll drop it. And most of the time with raid bosses, they don't play with that shit.
Yeah.
What do you think about the stop change answer, where Wowhead asks?
So basically they asked, what did you think about the stop change? Are you happy with them? And he said, Drew basically said that he did take a look at a lot of things in dungeons about how many mobs were casting and different things, and specifically he mentioned like the tank hits as an example of like kind of a clutter cast, and I do kind of agree that there are a lot less sort of clutter casts in dungeons now, and it did help a little bit with visibility, and it's not something that I thought about right away because normally I have a week where I track all the casts that are going on in the pack. A lot of people have this week where as like progress bars on the side of your screen, and normally I have to filter that out pretty heavily because there's a lot of stupid casts on there that I don't want to see. But I feel like I didn't really have to filter too many things out this season, and I think that's you can look at the pulls that people are doing in some dungeons as like completely demonic pulls, and it requires insane stop rotations. But I don't know if any of these pulls are really necessary or mandatory, especially for like unless you're doing high keys with a specific comp. Like again, you can walk into, you don't have to play with a freaking Disc Priest. Like you can have a healer with a kick. You don't have to play with a Moonkin. You can have another melee kick as an Ellie Shaman or something, right? Like I think there are plenty of can you think of any like the only pack that I always come back to that I'm like, what were they thinking or what was their plan here, was the guys before the third boss of Floodgate. The guys that spin and do AoE damage or whatever.
Oh yeah. That
but other
sucks.
than that, I can't really think of any like very demonic areas with casters. Obviously, you can, right? Like if you want to pull 3 packs in Priory that have 2 casters each, you can put yourself in that situation. But in theory, you could, that's just the way people pull it, right? Is you could pull footmen and archers with one of the packs with the mini boss.
I think in Priory there should just the density of caster mobs should just be lowered. Dude, I don't know if I've ever read a response from anybody that felt like it was like talking to me more than this response about the stop change. It's just so funny. It's just the way it's worded. It's like, that said, I think the changes we made in season 2, specifically to how often things cast and how long cast bars are, puts us in a healthier place. You're still seeing keys push pushed up to 20s even after this change. We do understand that it requires a little bit more coordination at a high level to execute some of these bigger pulls, but I think that's acceptable. You're at the bleeding edge of the system, and that's okay. The core experience of 110 or even up to 12 is very doable and very reasonable, even in a pug setting after this change. So in summary, we're happy with it, and we think it added some texture to creatures and players' abilities, and no changes planned at the moment. Like, it's just something about how it's worded. It's like, wait, he's talking to me. Wait a second.
Right. Well, going back to the last couple seasons, right, is you have a dungeon like, for instance, Grim Batol, where there would literally be one trash pack that had 3 caster mobs and a mob doing AoE, right? And like, even in a weekly 10 or a weekly 12, you're like, this is an unfair challenge, Whereas now I feel like, again, besides the one, like the Swamp Face mobs, I mean, I guess you can pull them separately, but I think that for the most part, there's not really any unfair challenges caster wise that they put you on, and I think the caster situation is like really good. And after playing with people who have done MDI who like know a lot about the mobs, and again, if you play a lot of your class, you'll know too, like which mob you can kick. As a mage, can you solo this mob, or do you need a melee, or is there 2 guys on this mob? And I feel like you can even go in with no comms if you're a good player and just like lock down most of the even like the pretty dangerous pulls that people do. So and that's why I think this season has been insane for pugging, right? With Resil keys on top of the dungeons just being more pug friendly. I feel like we're seeing so many people in Group Finder, and that's why there's this big push for like why everyone plays without comms, is just because you can do it now, right? Like you can walk into a 19 key or a 20 key. I watched Dorky do a key yesterday. He did a no comms 20 Cinder Brew, and it's just like, obviously these are, Dorky's a crazy tank and these are good players, but like the fact that Cinderbrew is one of the more difficult dungeons and it's still possible to do a no comms 20 Cinderbrew is like, that's wild. Like that's shout out to the dungeon designers for this one. Like I'm someone who has complained a lot about that sort of thing in the past, and I have to give them credit where it's due here.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that they did, and they touched on it as well for like how season 2 went, is they increased a lot of the cast times and just removed a lot of the random cast times, like tank busters, casts that don't matter, stuff like that. Like a lot of the cast bars that matter now matter. There's still some bolters and stuff like that, but like those are long casts, 3.5 seconds usually, and anybody can just go in and just kick it or just stop it, and then they'll recast. But
I think that's probably the bigger annoyance for me with the bolter mobs, is that it's like you kick it, they're on a 3-second lockout, and they start fucking bolting again. You're like, this motherfucker.
Dude, it's so much better though. Like when you think of how far we've come, like the bolters just like 1 second cast, like just shotgunning you with the bolts.
Yeah,
water bolt.
It's just so hard to play whenever they have a bunch of those mobs that are like that. All right, resilient keys. Our friends over at Wowhead asked another question. One of the other
I had to ask about this.
One of the other philosophical changes was to resilient keys. How do you feel like those went, and will we see them continue in season 3? Any changes planned for them? Squishy, what do you say back?
Essentially, no. Like they like them. That's the long and short of them. One of the things he mentions is like, there are people who are very happy the second they finish all 12s or all 14s, and then you start to work on the next tier. That feels really satisfying.
Yeah.
It's like, I think people are like, oh, they don't really say like, I got 3,300 score or something like that. They just go, I have Resil 14s. I have Resil 16s. Like that's the accomplishment there now. And everybody understands what that means. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think, this is part of the reason why I really like this interview, is because he pointed out a lot of things that, while we, also the commenters or the people who are telling me and I'm an idiot don't necessarily say, but also I like really vibe with. I really do agree, right? Like that's something that we've talked about a long time, is I love high keys and I want them to give more rewards and more incentives and checkpoints and goals, and Raider IO is only one number, right? And there really is, like, this has really changed a dynamic of keys now, where it's like, that's a goal that people set, is like different numbers. And I think that's a really, really cool thing that Resilient accomplished. Like during the podcast, I got a message that says, you need to get Resil 20, help me with Priory, you are my last hope. And it's like, that's something that like, getting Resil keys, not only is it a boost for you, but it's a boost for your friends, right? Imagine you're somebody who has a lot of more casual friends, and like you can get your Resil whatever and just kind of like hang out with them and do keys. And again, this is nothing to do with pugs or whatever. Like you guys can do whatever keys you want, and if that's something that you enjoy, like I do like that element of it, and it feels good to be a provider and to help your friends. And it's like, it's one thing to get an achievement in a game, but it's another thing to like earn something in game that you can also use to help somebody, right? And while it also has some other gameplay loop things that I think may be an issue to Mythic Plus, there are good elements to it as well. And I think
Yeah.
that he really did hit that point. And again, when Tettle said, oh, this one is speaking to me. When I read that line, it was kind of speaking to me too, because he really didn't talk about the gameplay loop that much, and because it's been discussed to death, right? It's a tough thing, and we don't really quite know exactly how it's going to play out. But that was kind of the one thing that no one really had brought up, that idea that this is a new reward that was intended to do high keys and a new breakpoint or whatever. And I think that's really, really cool part of the system.
They should be proud of how this landed. I think that this is
Oh, yeah.
I think this is fantastic. I don't know who in their office was cooking on this one. Like this is just like a brain blast kind of moment whenever they were pitching this.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I think they'll probably iterate it on in the future, but like they probably have other things that they need to do first, like an expansion coming up. So like if they had to choose between like trying to fix resilient keys to the high end or make tweaks now, like they're gonna pick the X number of new dungeons in the new expansion over resilient keys, and that because it serves the purpose for a good chunk of the player base. I think that's perfectly fine.
We're just so spoiled, and we don't even know it. Sometimes we get 8 new dungeons every single season.
Yep.
We get a team that's actively trying to make them better. Whenever people start bitching about affixes, they go ahead and actually listen to us and delete affixes. Like, oh my god, it's so great! Like, I swear.
Oh, it was wild. I was thinking about the fact that Priory and Floodgate were in the season back to back, and I'm like, at first it felt a little weird to me, and then I kind of thought about it. I'm like, well, man, in BFA, you just played the same dungeons for the whole expansion. In Legion, you just played the same dungeons for the whole expansion. In Shadowlands, like, they didn't even figure that out until the last season. Like, this is relatively new, the fact that we get dungeons every single season. And so it's like, we are definitely spoiled, right? And now it's like, oh, the same dungeon 2 seasons in a row, Resident Sleeper. Whereas before, it was like, you're excited to get a new dungeon after a year and a half.
Yeah.
Dude, you asked that about the need.
Dude, I had to ask about it.
That was funny. I saw this in here.
Dude, I just laughed whenever I read it because I feel like I knew where this came from because I was just complaining about it on the fucking pod. It's just so. This shit sucks.
It's an honest thing. Like, I feel like for everyone who pugs raid, it is a problem, and we've discussed it before, and I think they need to do something about it. But
yeah,
nothing right now, unfortunately.
I think it's just tough to solve with like a really good one-size-fits-all solution. It requires actually rethinking a little bit harder. Dungeon levers, I mean, we talked about that. Revisiting Tazavesh, we talked about that. Was there anything else that we missed from this one?
From this, no. But I want to continue on the dungeons train here. So I have some interesting data mining stuff that kind of got pulled up a little late.
Yeah.
There's no post. There's not one for a while. So the first thing, it looks like damage is increasing by 71% on average. From season 2 to season 3.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying was...
Like,
I feel like they're
DPS?
Gonna...
No, enemy damage.
Oh. On an M0 level.
Yeah, 71's a lot.
21%. That's like 7 key levels.
Yes, so that's what I was. Remember earlier when I was saying about how are they going to change things from season to season? That's sort of what I was talking about. Is they're going to have a totally different formula for how because normally it's like they just look at the item levels that we gained and then they kind of factor. Like normally it's like 26 item levels and then they buff everything by 30% is like the ballpark of what they do. But now it's like, yes, I didn't think 70%.
I don't know if this number is right, but it feels about right.
I mean, that's 10 key levels for below 12s or 7 key levels above 12, right? Because it's 7% scaling it from 2 to 12.
It would be, is it 8%? What is it about?
Is it 8? I thought, I thought it might have been 7.
I don't remember.
They changed
either
it.
way, that's definitely bigger.
Dude, they keep changing it all the goddamn time.
Yeah.
I know it's
10%
after 12. Like I know that's the number.
Yeah. Either way, like we'll see how it goes. Like we'll clearly see it on the PTR. We'll know if it's good or not. But I got some of the interesting changes here. So like Dawnbreaker, they went through they increased the cast times on a lot of fucking spells, like to 3.5 seconds. Fantastic changes. They nerfed a lot of the tank busters as well, as they should. The So like that's fine. Tazavesh had a bunch of changes as well. I know you were talking about the fish sticks.
Yes.
The cast time on fish stick got increased to 4 seconds. It was 2 seconds. So it sounds like it still exists, but maybe you can maybe stop it, or it just has no health. Like that is a possibility as well.
Oh, they could have no health, I guess. The issue with old Tazavesh is that the fish stick had like, I don't know, just a ridiculous amount of health. It was like,
yeah.
It's also like you're doing such large pulls in there. It's actually hard to get those mobs targeted once the fish stick spawns, because your average pull size in that area is probably what, like 15 mobs, like 2 packs of 8, something like that, 16 mobs maybe.
So one
Something
thing
like
about the fish sticks that makes me worry about, what makes me think that the intended mechanic is to kill the fish sticks and not do anything else, and why they're gonna do it, is that's exactly what they did in Cinderbrew. Like, they literally made those mobs exactly like all the other mobs of like, okay, it's a long ass cast, you can't stop it, it'll just keep recasting, and then it puts up a barrel and you have to kill this, right? And what do? We don't
Yeah.
kill it. We
No.
line of sight it. But I expect to see a similar treatment with fish sticks. Maybe let's make it so it ramps the healing, right? Like you have, like, imagine if it was a healing burst, sort of like the barrel, right? Like you have to kill it in a certain amount of time, or
Yeah.
it bursts a bunch of healing. But if you kill it in time, it doesn't do anything. Like that sort of
Also,
mechanic.
Also, if it's not a totem, I think that was a totem, right? It wasn't like, because the barrel you can just kind of cleave down. But if it's a totem, you can't do that.
True. Yeah, that's a
I
good
think
point as well.
that could help as well. If it's just not cringe to deal with, I don't think we'll care as much, right? Like, so I think that's pretty cool.
Side note,
Good.
look at this shit.
Dude. Yes, can't wait to see that in all my dungeons.
What the fuck is this?
Like, flavor-wise, super fucking cool.
This is the Dev Evoker
Dev
tier
Evoker.
set. Yeah, the scale
Yep.
the Scale Commander Dev tier set. This thing is what is this?
5 target split cleave, baby.
Anyway. Okay, what were you saying about the dungeons?
So, mailroom got nerfed, as it should.
Oh, the boss?
Like split soak. Yeah, the
Yeah.
split soak, and then you run faster while carrying the things.
Oh, good.
Yep. And then they changed the what's it called? The band boss a little bit. They added like some new abilities and stuff like that.
Boss
Oh,
was
that boss
so
was
bad.
terrible.
That boss
yeah,
was so,
yeah.
literally so bad. So bad.
They also nerfed the crap out of the pirate dragon, because that boss was also not great. Like, they made the hook not the hook that dragged you into the water lasted 10 seconds previously. Now it's 6.
Did you meld that thing off?
Yeah.
Remember.
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure
but
you did, yeah.
But they also added new abilities to that boss. So it's probably gonna feel completely different now.
That boss could have used a rework. I'm not complaining about that. That guy was not great.
Our car got some pretty big nerfs. You know that? Yeah. So right off the bat, there's the guys that charge you and slow you. The slow's gone. So great for grabbing mobs at the beginning.
Oh
they,
yeah, dude! Everybody who did our car in a pug, their tank mounts up, starts running, and then the first pack of 3 mobs just charges the tank, and they get dismounted and slowed, and they're just limping down. And the DPS is like pinging the mini boss that's like 10 screens away, and the tank is just limping along with the slow, and it just keeps getting applied over and over again. Dude, that is an example of a dungeon where like, yeah, people try. I mean, I understand why people do that pull. It's a good pull, but it's so funny to see like people in pugs try that sort of thing.
I believe the name of the ability is Extraction Strike. Did it get nerfed?
Yeah. So they basically made it so that it only heals, and has long cast.
It's not a tank buster anymore.
No, no, it still does damage to the tank, but it used to buff them.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew that.
Yes.
Yeah, the buff's gone. It's just a heal equal to damage dealt.
I mean,
and the cast time's longer. Cast time longer, like a bunch of other things.
I mean, the reason that your tank would die is because they would get like comboed with multiple.
Yeah, there was like 3 of them, and then they get damage buffs.
The Void Stars at the end of Gambit, is that still a thing where you had to like?
I don't know. I didn't see anything.
There's like a damage
there right
dude.
now.
Those mobs were. It was like I think it was maybe a pulsar. I think it's the actual name of the mob.
Yeah, the pulsar you did like destroy them. I'm sure they'll tune those.
Dude, those mobs had just way too much HP too.
Yeah. So they buffed the AoE on the first boss, the Spider of Arakara.
I'm
The
sorry, you said
Gossamer
they
Outburst.
buffed the AoE?
Yeah.
But
There's no but. That's it. Okay.
I'm waiting.
what did they
Okay.
nerf also? Because that was a really hard boss.
That was
Nothing.
the hardest part of that dungeon by a lot too.
I don't know. They buffed Gossamer Outburst by 50%. Like, what do you want me to tell you?
We're not playing with Og anymore either, Growl. This is gonna be a fucking fiesta.
Oh, no.
It's okay. They'll come back and nerf that thing later. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. They doubled the damage of the dot in the second boss.
You said
I think
I'm
that's
sorry.
shitty.
What?
Yeah, they doubled
that-
that damage. The initial, not the one where you trip on it, like the circles. That's
yeah.
not nerfed.
Oh yeah.
The one that it just
we
puts on
knew
you,
which
yeah.
one
Yeah.
you were talking about. We're
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, just making sure.
Mm.
Just making sure. The last boss, huge nerf. I saw this, I was so excited. So first of all, the poison only goes on 3 players instead of 5.
Okay.
So that's good change. So there's less poison. Secondly, the when the waves come out, if you get hit, the initial damage got nerfed by 66%, but now it leaves a dot. So now you just don't get one shot if you get hit by a wave. You can maybe get healed through it.
I mean, I will die. I will get one shot by it as a DPS.
You will get one
as a
shot,
weak
but,
DPS,
like,
but my tank won't, which is important because
Yes.
I'm not a melee. So if I get hit by a wave, I deserve to die. Frankly.
So okay, I don't want to open up a can of worms, so we don't need to like mega discuss this, but just to kind of like think and like to put the thought in people's minds. A lot of people struggle in low keys as healers, especially with a boss like this, because all of these things are non-lethal, because everyone in your team is running into stuff, and then it feels like it's your fault as a healer because you can't heal them. And it's sort of like you always get this comment in your chat as a heal streamer, it's like, wow, it looks so easy to heal a 20 key. My 12s are impossible, right? And really it's because, well, if anybody gets hit in a 20 key, you just die instantly, right? And it's
Yep.
like, in theory, it's better for lower key players, the fact that you can recover as a healer or press a defensive or do something, but it is something like they did talk about damage downs again on the Pod EC, and that's been a topic that comes in and out. And I do think that, like, you know, making, you know, if that's what they wanted to do, if they're like, this really shouldn't be lethal, let's make this change, you know, I feel like that's a really good spot to, like, okay, you get hit by the wave and you just take a fat haste debuff and you're just like permanently dehasted, or not permanently, but sorry, you're temporarily dehasted by, like, you know, 15 seconds or 10 seconds or something. I
So-
feel like any sort of mechanics like that where they want to give the player more agency to not get one shot, I think is a great time to experiment with something like
I
that.
think the wave is fine to, like, okay, this is gonna sound insane. I think the wave is actually, just as a mechanic, it's fine to one-shot people. The problem is, like, it's just so easy to accidentally get hit by it, especially if you're, like, standing on top of somebody else and it's
Well,
immediately,
now there's less.
you panic to dispel yourself. But yeah, now there's less. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to use a damage down personally, like that wave. Like, I think that, yeah, I don't know, that fight is,
Yeah, I just find from a healer point of view, like, that's a fight where in low keys it feels very stressful because people just run around and do monkey stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
I think a change like that will actually, I think, put more pressure on the healers to try and heal through it, you know, rather than like,
I agree.
oh, this feels great, they
I
didn't
mean,
die to this, you know.
none of that's
Like,
gonna
that's
matter.
already, yeah.
None of that's gonna matter.
Go
Like,
ahead.
your healer is gonna wipe you to the Gossamer Outburst on the first boss anyways after it's got buffed
Yeah,
by 50%.
true. Also, your
So-
like, who cares about healers anyway?
Okay, so I have a really hot take on that topic, and that's damage downs don't fucking matter. If people aren't gonna, like, people don't care about that. The only way to make people care is to kill them. And I actually think that the most important mechanics, even on a +2, just need to kill players. That's the only way you will get players to actually learn to do the mechanics and not leave it onto a healer. I honestly and physically believe that.
I understand what you're saying, and I think from a game design perspective, it makes things much more simple too. You know, like, you can decide which mechanics are lethal and which aren't, as opposed to, like, all of a sudden on a 8 you die to this, but on a 6 you didn't, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be really challenging from somebody who's trying to create a good difficulty scale. So I agree from, like, a fundamental point of view, from, like, game design point of view, but I think that just, I don't know.
If you're
like,
one-shotting
it's
players
hard.
in it too, they're
I'm not saying like every boss even, but like the last boss pull-in of Arakara,
Dog, there are some people who
that
can't
one
even.
mechanic kills you.
There's not.
100%
There's some people who can't even move their character. Like, yeah, I mean, who are in a
I mean,
+2.
there has to be a low bar somewhere, right? Like, should there not be a low bar somewhere where you have to do one mechanic in a dungeon to pass it?
There is, it's just very few and far between.
Yeah,
That is
I mean, like,
the well.
kinda
The
feel that
well. This is
too.
this is sort of my point, though, right? Is in my opinion, Arakara last boss, that actually was the case, right? Like it was the case that an extremely low key, you would still die to that pull in, and
Yes.
that's why everyone said that boss was
Well-
miserable, right?
well-
Because all of a sudden you could dig yourself. You know, you didn't need everybody to do the mechanics, right? But in that boss, you literally every single person, if they don't do the mechanic, they're dead. And it's like you just lose every single battle res there on your DPS. That
Yep.
that's why that boss is so hard. And
Good
so
news
it's like
for you, girl. That ability is nerfed by 60% in the next patch.
Which one?
The pull-in like explosion. They nerfed the pull-in explosion by 60%.
so
Why?
now it's a
I don't
healer.
know.
Yeah. So now it's a healer problem again
Exactly.
for lower keys.
Like that's why.
Well,
I
that
just
has a
don't
damage
understand,
down.
like-
That has a damage down. It's a 50% damage down. Do not get it, or 75% damage down. Do not get hit by the
oh,
thing.
okay. So all right, it is a damage down. Okay.
Is it a damage down?
Yeah. What was in the past?
So I don't know why I just believed Tuttles when he said something, but I didn't know that either. But
I have no idea.
It was
squishy doubting you makes me doubt you now. But
Oh no,
I be-
you're right. There is a damage down. I just don't know.
75%,
It's not on the
yeah?
server for some reason.
Oh,
It should be 75%. I remember having it when like somebody stood in the thing,
that's right.
but I just don't understand why they just like whatever.
I mean, my DK
Anyways.
was standing in that shit last season. You just pop AMS and stand in the suck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I don't know,
Uh,
man. Like now he's just gonna stand in it again because it's 66% less effective to him. Like, what is that?
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Halls of Atonement. Cigar got some changes.
Are they
do you remember how it was impossible? What?
Are they bringing back the gargoyles?
I think so. I mean, we'll have to see here. So, do you remember Cigar, right? The guy you couldn't kill
Yep.
until he killed
I
all
knew-
his souls because he heals.
Yeah, I knew that guy was getting changed when I saw.
Yeah.
the
So
changes
he
coming
used
back.
to. So he used to suck 12 souls for 6% per soul, aka a full heal. Now he sucks 6 souls for 2%. So like, I still think you want to kill all the souls, but like maybe you can burst it down on a low enough key. I'm not sure that
Ooh.
actually matters.
Well, it kind of mean I guess I understand that in that now cleaving him has more value or potentially has more value, right? So if he's healing, you said 6 for 2% each.
6 for 2% every second for 3 seconds. So it's 6 by 6.
Oh, that's still a lot though. I was gonna say like if he only healed 10 to 20%, then you would just kind of like want to cleave it all down together, right? Like he would heal a little bit, but he wouldn't heal all the way. But if he's healing 30%, I don't know. I still like it though, because like there are times when like you try and all in and kill him or whatever, and then he
They full
heals, and
heals.
it's like
Yeah.
exactly. Now he won't like it. Just makes that a little bit
Is
less
that affected
punishing.
by MS? By the way,
It should be.
Ooh, I mean, again, that might be a very legitimate strategy now, where you just send on him anyway, and you MS him Mortal Strike to reduce his healing, and then
Yeah.
if you don't beat the check, it's like okay, well he heals, and then you still kill
but
him.
he's only gonna heal
That
15,
might-
but he only heal
Yeah.
15% as opposed to 30. And so
Right,
instead
well-
instead of wasting your globals trying to AOE, instead you'll just like focus that guy down. And you just,
Yeah, so it just
Yeah.
gives you another option, and if you just want to go in the room and be a Moonkin and press Starfall and kill everything, you can still do that.
listen, you're not gonna threaten me with a good time.
Yep.
Looks like they basically changed Loyal Beasts to be kickable because you used to stop it.
Oh yes, Loyal Beast was basically there were these bears in Halls of Atonement for people that didn't play this dungeon where
Oh my
they
god, the
they hit the tank.
sharpshooters.
Yes, they hit the
Yeah.
tank very very hard, and they were paired with these archers, and the archers would use a spell called Loyal Beasts, and the spell wasn't kickable. So in like lower keys, people didn't really understand it, but it would giga juice the bears, and so basically any pug that you were in where the tank wasn't good, he would walk in, the bears would start hitting him hard, and be like, okay, let me press his defensive. Then like 10 seconds into the pull, the defense would wear off. Then you'd see Loyal Beast cast, and it would just all the bears would get huge, and your tank would just get chomped.
Yep.
Like he would literally die instantly if you don't stop that spell, and it wasn't even kickable. So that's a good change.
Yeah, I agree. The gargoyles still exist. They have a frontal. They have a kick. The long kick. So that's pretty
Well,
cool. The
you're
first
talking
boss
about. Are you
gives
talking
me
about fighting them, or are you talking about mind controlling them?
fighting them. I don't know what mind controlling. I have no
We
idea.
used to be able to Venthyr control them, and they
Oh, that's
were.
true. I remember that.
That
Yeah, I
was a
assume they
big
were
part
moving-
of the dungeon, yeah.
That's true. I don't actually remember. But the first boss now a checkpoint.
Oh, we didn't talk about the checkpoint change that they mentioned either.
Oh, we actually didn't.
Oh shit, we didn't.
All right.
Hold on. Well, hit checkpoint.
Well, I guess I'll start off. So one of the things that I would say me and Tuttles have been complaining about since the beginning of when people listen to us complain is the fact that WoW is so unintuitive in the way checkpoints work. Like you have to memorize where you resurrect in dungeons, and the correct thing to do when you die, if you don't know where you respawn, is to literally type in the chat, "Do I release?" and then hope that someone else in your group knows if it's correct to release there or not,
Yeah.
where the last checkpoint is. And now apparently they're finally addressing this issue, and they're creating a like stone sort of system where it spawns in where your checkpoints are or whatever, and it's much more clear in game where. And I'm assuming they're also he did mention the long run backs. I just sort of saw this initially as like a visibility, like understanding teaching players thing, which is huge. But also if they're, considering the run backs. Like one thing is they mentioned that, or sorry, they added the death timer increase in Keystones this expansion, and that's been a contentious topic that deaths are already punishing in Mythic Plus because you lose your damage. You either lose a battle res or you have to run back. And so now they're sort of looking at, well, okay, maybe they're throwing us a bone here, and actually a better bone, right? Of, okay, well, maybe let's make the run backs easier and better so that now you're punished less for death this way. So, like, in my opinion, like, if you die in keys, you should definitely be punished. And sometimes it feels silly when you don't lose anything and you just like, we have a meme in keys where it's like, if you press release instantly, it's not a time loss. We'll say that when we're like running it down mid feeding a key, and it's like sometimes it's true though, where like literally it just doesn't even matter and you're just throwing yourself at the wall, and it's like that's not good gameplay. And so I think this is a good alternative to like, okay, we're increasing the death timer, but we're gonna make the respawn system better.
I mean, there are
agree.
unironically some individual deaths that I'm not even talking about tank and healer, but individual deaths as DPS, where if you clicked release spirit and you stood back up off the ground, you would have still have lost like 45 seconds to a minute because the 15 seconds of the death penalty and all of the damage that you've lost. It is like deaths are already very punishing.
Bro, Priory the Sacred Flame, like, where is the checkpoint in that dungeon, right? Like, you need to get all the way until what, you kill the second boss?
You have to kill Star Brawn Pike to get the checkpoint.
Yeah, and so, like, and people learn, like, those knights at the beginning of the dungeon are miserable, but they're patrolling true sight mobs. And there's the 4 mobs at the beginning that people like to skip. And so it's like, dude, if you release a Priory, it's like you're literally going on a secret agent mission to try and get back to your team anytime. And it's like, yeah, that would just throw in a big old resurrection stone after the first boss would have been great.
Yeah,
it's a good change. I'm glad they're addressing it finally, because they said they've changed their philosophy. So I'm excited to see it, man.
I think that it's you kind of read what they're talking about with the waypoints, and you're like, okay, this sounds like it's more of the same. It's just visual clarity on it. But yeah, he said whenever he's talking about the philosophy of how long a run back is, that is the most important part of this to me. I think this is nobody's ever going to complain about a shorter run back either.
Nope.
We've come a long way since Holzman Fusion last boss, man.
Bro, what was that? Okay. Yeah, I'm interested. Are they going to change the Arakara run back? You just hop on that fly.
I assume they will, but we'll see. I mean, it'd be something interesting to test.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so excited for this. Like, it's so nice.
All right. Was there anything else in Halls of Atonement?
Yes.
You said
so,
checkpoint.
Yeah, you're good. The second boss only turns one person to stone now, and is no longer a curse.
What is it? It's a magic spell?
None. They just get cursed, or they just turn to stone and get stunned.
Is there no longer the leap then?
I have no idea. That was like the only change. The third boss got some interesting changes. The bolt got double damage, but it's no longer cast time. And the add AoE increases 10% per pulse.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was thinking the second boss. So what is the add? The add AoE. What?
The add. You know how like pulse AoE while it's up.
Yes.
increases in damage as you keep it alive. So
Gotcha.
just get it in the hole.
So you
And
got,
there's also like a new spread mechanic that doesn't matter. The last boss got changed pretty significantly. I can't really tell what it does from data mining, unfortunately.
I mean, that fight
So.
was, dude. Funnily enough,
Not good.
you know what's weird about that fight? I thought that fight was demonic, and I was like, every single time I think about that boss, I think about playing it with the tormented affix, and I'm just slowed by 50% on that guy. Just battling that guy with the 50%.
Yes,
slow. I don't even know why. That's the only memory that I have of that boss is just battling him, and I'm just permanently slowed.
Oh yeah, that was the season that we did MDI, and so it was like every boss, like dude, last boss, I had memories of doing that with the affixes and stuff. Dude, that was. I have a. I'm gonna stab one in the dark here. I'm gonna guess that the third boss of Halls of Atonement is gonna turn super demonic. Like I bet that they're gonna make that like a crazy.
There's definitely a lot more
fight.
healing now.
Like,
Like,
yes,
the AOE.
Like basically the AoE that the ads do. I don't know if you guys notice this as non-healers, but for me as a healer, sometimes I see mechanics and they're doing 0 fucking damage, and I'm thinking Blizzard probably meant for this to be a healing thing, but I'm just gonna shut up and not say anything, and I'm just gonna let. And sometimes those things happen all season. I'm trying to think of an example of one they brought back, but that's one that those ads spawn and they just literally do nothing unless you just stand in AFK and touch them, right? Because remember they would like melee you or do like something if you get really close to them. But
Yes.
I bet that's going to be a crazy fight.
Yeah, they removed that.
Healing.
It just does triple damage now on the first pulse, increased by 10% every tick. So you just got to get in the thing, like plus the new like pulsing AoE. The big there's some changes to Priory though, and I think you'll be really interested in these.
Oh, I think all right.
Removing casters, removing casters.
What do you think it is?
I think they're going to want people to go right now, and I think they're going to change the mini boss. Yep.
Oh wow!
So the right mini boss no longer has the fucking movement speed slow, and just does more AoE damage.
I actually I have an admission here before you continue to maybe help make sense. I have no idea what anything on that side is or what it does. I have no idea what the mini boss does. I literally, Dorky did that key one time on PTR and pulled that mob, and they were like, "This is the most demonic thing I've ever seen," and I've never fought it.
It's actually not that
M0
hard.
week.
It's actually much easier than going left. I think that going left is they're much harder mobs. Whenever you have to fight dual maul and whatnot. The issue is because you end up fighting Emberlins with the boss who does that massive pulsing AoE. So you're no longer fighting that massive pulsing AoE. Instead, you're fighting Emberlins with that trash mob, and it's gonna pulsing AoE with you on the trash. But the downside is that you have dual maul on the boss now, and he does that big Ember Storm. And if you get if the Ember Storm circles go out at the exact same time that the savage mauling happens, you just die.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even know why people went left. That shows I literally didn't even know that.
It's because you can't go right. Otherwise, you run the risk, and it's not always that this happens, but you run the risk of them syncing up, and you just have to commit a battle res, which is just like, okay.
Well, so now Squishy is going to give us the info of, does Blizzard know that?
Yeah, so the other thing with the right mini boss was that it slows you by 70%. Like it just put up a slow, and having to dodge swirlies or anything else while under that slow was terrible. So it just killed people.
Okay,
but so the slow's gone.
Did they nerf the knight?
AoE.
Did they nerf the knight? Because there's also a night patrol that's over on that right side. That's
so knights got nerfed.
Just nerf them now. Honestly, fuck it.
The initial damage got nerfed, and the bleed duration got nerfed. So that's really, really good.
Stupid ass mobs. They're so bad.
Yes. But then here we go. The left mini boss.
Which one?
Shield got increased by 66%. And the shield reflects 85% of damage done.
All right, so we're going right, boys.
I'm just okay. So my Jank B's gonna one shot himself.
Jank B's in danger, bro. I don't know if Tettles was in this key, but I was playing with some people that I don't normally play with, and The earlier pulls went poorly, and I didn't have any defensives. And I pull up to that mini boss, the guy who reflects your damage, and I just start popping all my CDs on my mage. And I realize that I don't have any defensives left, and the only words I utter in comms are "Jangbi is in danger." And then I just literally like combust myself. I just explode into a bunch of pieces. And the healer just starts laughing, and they're like, "Okay, now I know what you mean by Jamie is in danger."
Dude, they 60. Oh my god, what?
Yeah.
85.
No, 66% increased shield size
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Like, I don't think that 85% spell reflect is healable, frankly. But even hypothetically, if it was, 66% shield strength is just not.
I'm pretty sure it's you time it out now, is it not?
I don't think it's a timer.
Wait, okay, what was the reflect percentage? Because there's actually 2 spells here.
I can pull it up.
Is it 40%
I don't
or is it
know.
70%?
I don't know. It's not that much.
It's probably 40%. Yeah, 40% got changed to 85%,
Yeah.
which is a lot.
Dude, that's so funny. Also, did you see that today the Prot Warrior dev woke up and decided that he wanted to be violent against Prot Warrior and deleted spell block from the game?
I saw that.
I saw a Pico was popping off on Twitter, which is funny, but
Oh, dude, yeah, that is. I understand why they deleted spell block, but you think of the tank specs that need the most help against magic damage. I don't think that Prot Warrior was like in a great state versus magic damage as is, and now they're in a worse state. Like, what is going on with that?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, also, you mentioned dual maul. Wait, is it dual maul? The fire guy. During,
Yeah, dual maul. Yeah, Tanner dual maul.
Yeah, so during Dale Cry, the fire AoE got nerfed. 40% damage nerf, and the last 2 seconds shorter. So now it's way more reasonable to play that during the boss.
Wait, so I can... Well, I guess, yeah, maybe if I can defensive through
now you just have to
savage...
be slightly more unlucky to die.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to... All right, Shadow Meld Potion.
Oh, that is a Shadow Meld Potion boss. Bro, yeah, you literally have another defensive, and then my DPS just are going to press damage potions anyway. Even though they literally have an immunity potion to get out of the overlap.
The boss has a new ability. It puts shit around the arena.
Wait, which one?
It's a brand new ability.
Dalecry? No, which boss?
Yes. Captain Dalecry hurls his spear with destructive force that increases physical damage to players in the area and shadows the ground, inflicting damage to all players. So it's just like shit on the ground area, now.
I mean, it's just he's just gonna throw a spear at you, and you're just gonna move out of it, and it's gonna.
Yep, pretty much. Although they did nerf the damage of the Savage Mauling.
That boss, oh, that's good. That boss did feel like it strangely didn't have very many mechanics.
I agree. But they increased the shield to break by 100%. So now it takes longer to break.
So even... Wait, well, fuck. Melding it is worse now because he protected whenever he's got a shield on.
Well, it doesn't matter if you meld or not, right? Like,
well, no, if you meld it, he immediately starts casting his interrupting whatever his thing is, right?
But why does that matter with the shield?
Because he's protected whenever he's got a shield on himself.
You can't kick the.
Oh, I thought you could just kick it anyway. Even though it says it's not kickable.
Oh, well,
I don't know.
Okay.
No.
What you're claiming, I don't know anything about.
Never mind. That was that was an old thing. That's not how it works.
Well, what you're saying is nothing that I know anything about.
But yeah, there's some big changes. It seems like even to the last season dungeons. That's pretty cool.
I'm stoked. I mean, yeah. I think that this is an S. I think the dungeon pool that they announced is like an S+ tier dungeon pool. I don't know if I've ever seen a dungeon pool that I'm more excited for than what they've announced for this season. Like, they could make any dungeon good or bad due to tuning or changes or anything. But like, I think that the foundation that they have for all these dungeons, and we're getting a brand new dungeon too. Like, I'm so.
Bro, what I use the word modernization of dungeons in the past as a very negative thing, right? Like, oh, they're taking, like, for instance, Siege of Borealis. Like, they took Siege of Borealis and they just added AoE to like 17 mobs. Like, oh, this is not okay, maybe they did some stuff, but what all the changes he's talking about of basically like making important casts either more visible or kickable or longer, like, making it so like tank busters aren't so brutal, like oh, everyone did this route, let's maybe make this part of the dungeon more appealing to run, right? Like these
Yeah.
are all massive W changes. Like this modernization, like now I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh yeah, like thinking back, that doesn't really make sense, a mechanic like that, like and it wouldn't really fit in the current game, and it is a lot better without that mechanic.
Yeah,
Well, better is a tough one because like the thing about Mythic Plus a lot of times is it does kind of feel like you have to learn stuff, like, and you just like kind of know it, but not all of it is intuitive. Like for example, you talk about the first boss of Priory, and it's like that boss can be really hard if you don't know things, right? Like if you don't know that the second AoE and especially the third AoE is like a really bad overlap, and like that's when you want to save your major defenses because he jumps on you while it's doing the AoE.
Yeah.
Like anybody who's done high keys knows that, right? But if you're somebody who doesn't, like, how are you supposed to know that the third and second AoE are scary, but this first AoE isn't?
You look at your
Yeah.
Blizzard mandated timers that they've given you now.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know. In general, huge dub.
I-
I'm super super excited. All the news that has come out has been very very good.
We didn't talk about this very much. I mean, and this wasn't discussed.
Oh yeah.
really.
Also, we didn't talk at all about any of the class changes.
I was gonna say the VFX that were actually present in season 2 were insanely good. Like I think that they cooked so hard on the VFX updates, and I think that that's gonna continue to be.
Oh, dude. So I was when the one button thing came out, I started leveling a warlock and time walking for fun. And so I'm doing. Not everyone is gonna know this if you didn't do this dungeon, but do you remember King's Rest? When you walk in, there's those 4 stone guys or whatever,
Yeah.
and they do that frontal slam that makes that lightning triangle.
Oh
that's
my
like
god, it was
giant.
so bad.
You'd outrange
The
it.
visual of it. Go back and watch a VOD later of that frontal. It
Dude,
is so bad compared to you can just pull it up, I guess.
I'm pulling it
Look
up,
at
yeah.
how
VFA
bad it
time
is
walking.
compared. Yeah, see, you did it too, right? You saw that frontal compared to the current standards of the way things are now. Looking back at that, I'm like, dude, this is the like. How do you even? Okay, yeah, this is it. I think some teams skipped this, but a lot of teams did. You would just do like all 4 of these guys at once.
You'd outrange
Bro.
them. You'd outrange their.
Yeah,
lightning.
you would like out. Oh, they might skip them.
Didn't you pull them after? I feel like you.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. You belf all these guys. I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
These goddamn
some
rogues.
of the routes skipped them.
They should put True Sight on these motherfucking mobs.
Yeah, they got to put True
Oh,
Sight on all these.
Speaking of that, I was told by Zeph, one of the demon hunters, that there's a bunch of new trash mobs in Halls of Atonement as well. Like, they added a bunch of new packs, and how most people skipped the second area previously in Halls of Atonement.
Oh, yeah.
There are now
yep.
True Sight mobs there.
Wait, what? Those mobs were demonic. They kept stunning you and shit, and like they were impossible to play. Somebody uploaded.
Don't do 20s. Do like 10s, like keys that people aren't gonna be. Oh, okay, this one maybe.
I mean, 20 was a low key at some point.
Oh, they're fighting them. That thing. Yeah, that shit right there.
Look at that frontal
animation. See it. Yeah, right there.
I can't see. I actually.
That's
can't
multiple
see.
of them stacked on top of each other.
Right, hold on, I was gonna cast it. Ready?
Watch how bad just one is.
There it is, right there.
Look at that! Look at that animation. When I was doing time walking, and
this is the outline of this fucking thing. Look at this. Look where my mouse is. It's like actually insane.
Bro, it made me think back to like I don't know, like visibility has gotten so much better. And one funny thing is that Theater of Pain got brought back, right? And one thing that if you pug Theater of Pain or like did that key, even with good players, that frontal tornado that the guys in the necrotic wing do, those like 2 big the like lich guys or whatever in the platform area. That didn't have a front line before. You literally had to see which way they were facing. And dude, people would get hit by those tornadoes and go flying off the platform all the time, right? Yep. And literally, when's the last, like, do people ever get hit by that anymore?
Not really. I mean,
when's the last time you've seen somebody get hit by that? Like now you never. It's so easy to dodge.
The metery hobgoblins also got the line added in the middle of the patch. Like, I mean, I think that's just like awesome to be able to actually be able to see where those stupid ass mobs are going.
That was added mid-season too.
Yeah,
like it didn't start like that, and then they added it, and now it's just so much easier. Like, holy crap!
I wish the first boss of Darkflame was like that, where you could see where his charge is going.
Yeah, they probably could add those.
I actually, when I get targeted by that, I ping myself.
I feel like
to make it easier to see where I am.
I feel like that mechanic is really difficult to see, like where you need to know where the person is to know where the boss is going to be going, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And it changes a lot with tanks, right? Like some tanks tank it like way too close to the pillar, and so you need to go to the other pillar.
Yeah,
And
you have
some
to
are
go
like
force that
just
pillar.
close enough, or
Yeah.
like depending on what class you are, like can you escape if you're close to the pillar? Like yeah, that's a tough one for pugs.
Yeah. Was there anything else that we had?
Yep. Now on to all the class changes.
No,
I'm joking around.
We could go for the
we'll
world record another time.
We get the raid stuff too, but we could probably just cover that next episode.
Monday.
Yeah, we can cover that
Dude.
Monday.
I cannot wait to see people blow themselves out on Priory Bay going left. They very clearly want everybody to go right. Like,
you don't have a prediction? I think they're gonna have to nerf the left guys at some point.
I mean, that's a big reflect.
I mean, yeah. Maybe they don't want it to be balanced. Maybe they just don't want you going left.
Yeah, is it a bad thing if they're like, we have this other side of the dungeon, like please play it, like to change things up for a season?
So it's kind of interesting. It's not that it's encouraged, it's that they're telling you do not go to the left. Like they didn't balance these mobs. They very clearly imbalanced these mobs.
Yeah, I mean they nerfed one and they buffed the other, but
it's the case that that's part of the experience when you go into a dungeon. Is you go into a dungeon, you see the different mobs, you learn, oh man, I'm doing a 2 right now or an M0, but if I did a harder dungeon, I would never pull this, right? Like that's what everyone does on PTR or on the first week or whatever. And it's like that's part of an intended thing about exploring a dungeon, right? You do it on an easy mode or a low pressure key. You say, oh, this is bad, and then you never do it, right? Because ultimately everybody's going to kind of come down to like a meta route, right? Like it's not like you can say, oh, Blizzard is forcing us to go right, but even if they did try and balance both sides of Priory perfectly, I bet everyone would go one way more or less, right? Like
the meta slave inside of me says I wish that they were slightly more balanced. That way you could actually make a decision. But at the end of the day, what Growl said is 100% true. The decision was never really yours to make. It was whoever was sweating the PTR 3 months before the season started. There's a reason that Growl didn't even know the reasons that you don't go right. It's because you can die. Like I
think trash is easier on the right. No,
there's absolutely not. The knights. The knights.
There's a knight. But
the knight is a forced pull on the right. Here, I'll pull up 3 chests and show you. So this knight right here is a forced pull, pretty much.
But there's like less casters, right?
I think the mobs in general are a little bit easier here, mostly because there's no like double light spawn with like demonic mobs on it.
Yeah, the fucking light spawn sucked, man. Like,
that is true.
I mean, there's more sharpshooters, there's more footmen. In theory, I think it's more attractive count. Everybody started the PTR prior to the season going to the right because they're more attractive mobs, and then for a couple of reasons, everybody realized that you couldn't go right, and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Good news, a correction. She has 2 different shields. One of them is killed, and the other one is just an RP shield. The one that was buffed to 85%, was not changed. That's the RP shield. The one that is actually used in combat did not change its 70% of damage done and has been 70% of damage done.
Why does she have 3 different IDs of...
I don't know. She puts up one before combat, one in combat, but both of them got buffed by 66% still, so you're still dealing with a bigger shield.
And it's an 80% reflect?
No. No, it's still 70. So the one that she puts up in combat is 428150.
So it was previously a 70% reflect.
It was pretty 70, now it's still 70.
Okay.
But the shield got buffed by 66%.
This is maybe still due.
Well, does that reflect just the scaling of the season? Because it's a set number of a shield, right?
No.
Well, because our damage
no. That is in addition to the season scaler.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this side is maybe still doable. Hearing that. Well, how big?
Well, let's just wait and see what Yoda and Dorky figure out.
What was the nerf to the knight again?
The knight, shorter bleed down to 12 seconds and initial damage lowered.
But it still does that bullshit disrupting shout.
No change as far as I saw.
Probably still unplayable. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting to think about. All right, we're gonna be back on Monday. The next episode is gonna be going up on Tuesday. We'll be talking about all the one button shenanigans with 1117. We'll also have some part 2 of the Wowhead exclusive interview that talked a lot about the raid stuff. We'll cover all of that as well. So yeah, congratulations if you made it to this bonus episode, part of the bench. We will see you guys Tuesday. Also, I'm not going to be timestamping this episode. I'm sorry. It's way too late for me to do that shit.
I think, well, if they've already made it this far.
They already did that, though.
Yeah.
It's
It's
okay.
been a long one.
Bro, it's 11:30. You gotta give me a break. It's a bonus
Yeah,
setup.
yeah, yeah. Check out this achievement, by the way. Did you see this achievement?
What is
I
this?
think Growl might like this achievement.
If killed by Kaiveza in her lair, everyone in my guild will have that achievement.
Dude. She's just gonna execute you from 10%.
Definitely a really cool
What?
reference. It's a reference to an Elden Ring content creator guy, kind of.
Oh, really?
Well,
Okay.
no, the regular achievement is let me solo her or him.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's backwards. 'cause you
There's
need to die.
a guy who there's like a famous guy in Elden Ring who basically helps people with like the hardest boss. You can basically like request people's help on bosses if you're a little scared kitten, and he basically just solo queues the hardest boss, and his name is Let Me Solo Her, and he just wears no armor and he just helps people. And he's like a guy, you know, it's just like some it's like, you know, the random guys that you hear stories of in a game, and it's like a reference to him.
All right,
Cool.
GG's.
Later.